Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Maxwell from Legion of Myth, and I welcome you to Game Master Insight in tonight's conversation on combat philosophy, action economy, and counter tempo. What should combat feel like at the table? A special shout out to our first-time viewers. I really hope you enjoy this conversation and come back again. Rumble rants and super chats will be read at the end of each segment. If you rant or chat $50 or more, I will take a drink in your name. You can also be a silent supporter via Ko-Fi and other platforms using the links in the description. And with that, thank you for your time and support. All right, let's quickly meet our panelists. And yes, the cat is the panelist tonight, not Bear. After which we will dive into the first conversation on combat ideals and table identity. So in our third chair today, we have... Oh, did I do this back? No, I just didn't change this part. No, we have Bear. My notes are wrong. We have Bear. So briefly tell us who you are and what content you create.
It's actually Beans, and his content is poop in a box and wrecking things in my house. I am Bear, the Gen X GM. I am also a cat daddy. Tried not to be, but I became one. That was life. And I create role-playing games. I create role-playing content. I create AI music. Oh my God, burn me, throw me in a lake with rocks around my neck. And I have opinions that you may not like. And you don't like them, that's okay. You're allowed to not like my opinions, just like I'm not allowed to like yours.
Or you.
We have to be enemies to each other.
All right. Sitting in the middle position is Sean, also known as Mage's Musings. Briefly tell us who you are and what content you create.
Yeah, I'm Sean. As Max said, I produce a show called Mage's Musings at Merlinster Gandaldor. There's the link. I talk theory. I do general silliness with my puppets, and I recap my campaigns, Old School Essentials and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition.
Okie dokie. And finally, or should I say firstly, I don't know. How do you want to do this? Anyway, the panelist who will get us started is Vicky from Every Games. Briefly tell us who you are and what content you create.
So I'm Vicky, and I am the co-creator of Untold Destiny. I'm the co-host of Indie Game Spotlight, where we delve into people's creations and we get them to tell us all about what they've done. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, one quick, since he's watching. Hey, Arch, I apologize. You didn't get a message from me. Discord was acting up. But since you're here, hey, we have a full panel tonight. So thank you very much for being in that awesome backup position. No, I really mean that because, we've had people that got sick and whatever else. And we need somebody, oh my God, to fill in last moment. So I really do appreciate our backup. So thank you very much for that. And he'll be on next week. So, all right, Vicky, starting with you. Combat rules shape the emotional experience of a fight. Whether that means speed, danger, tactical depth, cinematic flair, chaos, hard survival, whatever other term you can think of that goes in there that makes people think and enjoy or hate combat. So this segment, we're going to give each panelist room to define his or her ideal combat experience and explain how that ideal affects tactical understanding, communication, initiative, movement, positioning, damage risk, and again, a million different terms that I put out there so that, they think about vast different things and how different people think about stuff, but generally speaking, how it affects combat at the table. We will start with Vicky.
Well, I love this question because there's nothing I like more than dynamic combat, and everyone is going to groan when I say that. And what I mean by dynamic combat is I like to be able to get involved. I hate sitting around just waiting for stuff. I like to be able to react to my environment. I like to be able to react to what is happening around me. I like to be able to work as a team to take on whatever is happening. So to me, that's dynamic. I like to be able to react, and that means a lot to me. The other thing is when I'm in a combat, I like to be able to go up against bad guys who actually think and act and make it a challenge. And by that, I mean, I like to be able to feel I'm accomplishing something. They can't be too much of a pushover. So that does mean that if there's a way that they can gain advantage through initiative, stuff like that, that they take it, they don't sit back and just let us get ahead. I want my choices to matter in battle. If I make a poor choice, I need to be punished for it. There is nothing worse than that you screwed up and you've left yourself open, and nothing on the battlefield takes advantage of that. And that's what I mean by dynamic. I want to be able to react. If someone's going after one of my allies, I want to be able to react
your
to
microphone
that.
kind of went out there.
Oh, that was probably me walking back. Was that me? I rock. Dean tells me off all the time. I rock backwards and my microphone cuts out. So yeah, that's what I mean by dynamic. I want to be able to react to the battlefield. I want to be able to react to my allies, react to the creatures that I'm up against. I want to be able to have an initiative that feels fair. And by that, I mean, I want to be able to have an order, but I don't want it to slow everything down. So it has to be fair, but at the same time, it has to be interactive. That's what I like from a good combat. I like to be able to think, react, and basically immerse myself in that combat at the table. That is what makes combat for me.
Guys want to jump in? And
I completely disagree with everything she said. I think combat should be staid, boring, static. Initiative should be randomly decided by the GM and completely unfair, giving their favorite pet player 3 turns in a row. And enemies should never take advantage of your mistakes, and your mistakes should be compounded immediately by penalty dice. That's what I believe. Yeah.
The Canadian way. That's why we're tough bastards.
Yeah. Exactly. No, Vic, I mean, come on.
Lots of Canadians. What am I supposed to do?
Just be British. We are ironically in awe of you at all times. It's so weird. No, you're absolutely. I don't think Sean's going to say anything different. I'd be surprised if he did. Everything you said is like, yeah, that's just rational thought.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is, like from a mechanical flow perspective, you want to flow. You want a good pace. You don't want every turn to be analyzing and doing math. You want a good pace.
Oh, God,
now,
no.
From a personal perspective, I mean, once upon a time when I was young and stupid, I wanted the power fantasy. I wanted to be the guy who triumphed, right? But,
main character?
What?
Main character or just wanted to triumph?
Yes to it all. But I mean, the way I play now, I love the chaos of combat. I want combat to be scary and frightening. Even if you're a solid, capable warrior in control of a situation, you know that there's the dice can take it away from you at a moment's notice, no matter how good you think you are. And I like that too. I like that, the stakes. So I think that's important as well. So if you can marry that, you can marry the beautiful chaos with a good table flow, I think you've got your ideal combat situation. I mean, there's all nuance. Sorry.
I also like crits to matter. I like my crits to matter, and I like my rubbish rolls to mean something. So I think that's important at the table too. Sorry, Bear, did I cut you off?
No, it's okay. Well, I'm fine. Well, that's why I use active defense. That's why I design games that use an active defense system, because I honestly am the kind of GM that believes the GM should never be rolling dice. The GM should be orchestrating and controlling things and moving NPCs and do that. The players should always be rolling. If there's an attack, it's a value the players are defending against. If it's a defense, if the players are attacking, they're rolling against the defense. Always keep the players rolling the dice, keep the players engaged, and they will find combat more dynamic, to use your word, because they're actually involved at all times. They're not just sitting there going, all right, well, the GM's going to roll 4 attacks now, so...
Yeah, but when there's a chance that they're going to die from one of those 4 attacks, and you hold the dice up...
I don't have... I'm sorry, my dick... No, it's not. My dick doesn't get hard for that, because I'm not a player who's stuck as a GM, and that is a player stuck as a GM behavior. I want to roll dice, too.
No, that is the DM also being a player, and getting to roll those dice is fun for me, too. So
I get to be a player in different ways as a GM than that. I don't need to roll the dice. I can watch their rolls doom them.
As a character, though, as a player with a character, I like it when the DM is rolling the dice, because that when you're watching those dice roll, and we do open rolling, it means something, because their dice can go, crits or fails and that adds to the layer of excitement that you get.
But so can your dice, and it's the same layer of excitement. It's just who's generating the random number in that moment. For me, by keeping it in the player's hands, they stay engaged.
I totally understand.
Method. It's no fun for me. I want to roll some dice too.
Yeah, I get that.
I have this motherfucking big box of dice. I'm going to goddamn use them.
Look at that. I'm not first in the swear jar again this week.
Look at this big honker. It's going to get rolled. It's going to get used.
And that's fair, but it's just not for me, right? That's just not my thing. The games that force me to do it, like if I'm running Phase Rip, it's very difficult to not have to roll dice because it's not the same type of system. But in like a D&D type of system or things like that, it's very, very easy to just say, okay, defend versus 15, and then watch them roll dice and see what happens. And then their dice curse them, not me. And I don't have to deal with that. Your dice are bullshit. Your dice are completely cheap. And they're always rolling. Shut up. Whatever. It was your dice.
I love those.
You're just avoiding. You're just avoiding players giving you grief by passing.
Well, that's one of the that's enough benefit. Why is that bad?
No, that's half the fun for us players is to give GMs grief when their dice are playing up.
Taking all your fun away from you since 1970. That's what I do.
Well, let's get back a little bit on track here. One of the things you said is you want an order. This is for Vicky. You said you want an order that doesn't slow things down. What do you mean by that, or how would you implement something like that? Because I'll be upfront. I'm somebody, I love declaration phase and initiative rolling phase. I really push back against people. It slows the game down. No, it's literally part of the game. So no, it doesn't slow anything down. So I'm on that extreme end of that. So where do you find your balance or that middle ground?
I personally like to just be able to get an order quite quickly and go through it. Because I like dynamic play, there doesn't necessarily need to be that statement of what you're doing phase, because you can change what you're doing as the battlefield progresses, and you can react to things and interrupt it. So when we play, that's the way that we play. So that to me means that you don't have to worry about things like declaration. But I cast my mind back and someone will tell me I've got the wrong edition. I think it was either 3.5 or something where we used to have, or it might have even been Pathfinder, where we used to have to play through, and then we had to re-roll, and then we had to -5. We had to go again. I think it was 3.5. Was it
-5?
I remember.
Yeah, it might have been Pathfinder, but we had to or was it Shadowrun? I can't remember what edition or which system. But we ended up having to roll, and then we'd have to remove 5 for the next initiative track. Then we had to do maths all the time.
Wow.
Can't remember what system it was, and I just remember that being a right pain. One, because I had to do maths with my initiative on top of just rolling initiative, and it just really slowed everything down. I'm gonna have to try and find that system again now so I can remember what it was.
Yeah,
I don't want systems like that. I want to be able to roll, have what the initiative is, and then just play and get stuck into what we're trying to achieve.
Well, I run AD&D and OSC, and they're simple. It's like you make a declaration. In OSC, it's a case of, there's only a few declarative actions, but it's mostly free form. But in AD&D, it's like you have to declare your choice. But it's simple. It's like, all right, you roll a d6, highest roll wins, with some exceptions, and off you go. And you do it every round, but it's so fast. And with players making their declarations, you're kind of locked into an action. They might want to change their mind, but you impose a penalty and still keep going. But for the most part, it's like, all right, guys in front of me, I'm going to attack. All right, that's your declaration. Oh, somebody killed the guy before I could attack. What else can I do? Well, I'll give you half movement. Go ahead and move across the battlefield, kind of thing. Easily adapted. But for the most part, it saves time because, in modern systems, it's free form and you go around the table, everybody gets to their turn. It's like, okay, what can I do now? And then you've got 5 minutes of decision making. Whereas, when you have to make your declarations right at initiative, you might get some humming and hawing there, but it's very quick because there's only so many things they can do given what position they're in. Then you roll the die and then they're committed. And when it gets to their turn, it's like, all right, well, I attack. Boom. Because I already declared I would.
So this is part of Marvel Superheroes, the old phase rip system, is you had your declarative phase. And after you made the declarative phase, when it got to be your turn, if your declarative phase was no longer valid because someone had interrupted or done or changed the battle, so your declared action was no longer good, you had to make a change of action roll. And it didn't matter whether or not they made a change of action roll. I ran that game for well over a decade, almost 2 decades. Players, no matter how good they were, at some point would go, and then have to think about what they were going to do now when they made a change of action roll, because what they had planned to do was no longer valid. I used to love this. Now I prefer, what are you doing? And then I get to go, all right, you stand there with your mouth open and move on to the next person.
You can have it
And
both ways.
You can, but I prefer the more dynamic. Let's just go. I prefer a cinematic style of combat. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's why I prefer the original Cyberpunk over all the later editions, because it was more cinematic. That's all.
No, I have to agree with you on that. I find the other way it gets too stilted for me, and especially if you're playing a system where you can actually react to your environment, it doesn't make sense to have the sort of declaration of actions, because as things change throughout the encounter, then basically you can change what you're doing at a drop of a hat. And I think that, to me, you're right, it's more cinematic, but it's more engaging as well. And because you can react, you can actually take part even when it's not your turn, and that's the sort of systems I like.
Well, but forcing a declaration doesn't necessarily mean you can't adapt in some way. But what it does do is speed up the turn order, especially when it comes down, because you get your order of operations. Your player is already focused. Okay, I'm going to attack, or I'm going to use my bow. And yeah, if something happens, there's no reason you can't let them change their action, whether it be an organic with no penalty or penalty depending on the circumstance. It's just keeps the flow of the game going.
I'm gonna counter that with, as a player, it's my job to be ready, right? Now, I know I've heard James say that, but it's my job to know when you say to me. So if I'm in your game and you ask me what I'm doing, it's my job to have already figured that out. That's what I'm at the table to do. If I've picked up my phone and I've totally ignored it, I deserve to lose I deserve to be basically passed over and sod you're not having a go because you've not paid attention. I'm really sorry to all you other players out there. We have a responsibility in the game to be watching, taking part, and actually engaging, so we know what we're doing.
Yes, I 100% agree with that, but that's true of any game, regardless of whether you're using freeform or declarative actions.
I just agree with what Vicky said and what Max was saying in the chat. Off the Rails roleplay. And I said this last time I was here. System mastery, player mastery, game mastery. These are things that players need to have. If they don't want to take the time to learn what their character can do and don't want to pay attention to the game, we're going to do that for about 2 sessions, and then we're going to have a conversation about whether or not you stay in the group anymore, because you're now slowing down combat every time we get to your turn, and you go, and it's like, oh my god.
They'll learn fast enough once you start skipping their turns, though.
Do you think? But some people just get butt hurt and make sour face instead.
But the worst thing is you see every other player at the table go, oh God, it's him again, and he doesn't know what he's doing. And you always know the player that does it, because everyone just looks at them and they just go,
or they get up and leave the table to get a drink because they know, well, it's Sean's turn. This is going to be 8 minutes. I'm going to go to the kitchen and get a Mountain Dew, right?
Yeah, time to put the kettle on.
Or worse, get up and go leave the table to get a drink right before their turn. And everybody's
my God. Oh.
Asshole, get back to the table. Roll some dice. Do I have to?
The best thing about HeroQuest is it's HeroQuest. Broadsword.
Another Vicky, you said that crits and fumbles should matter, so that's how I wrote it down. But can you give some examples now? I'm going to put one caveat in here. One thing I don't like, and this is a game master issue, this is not a person or typically a game issue even, is you roll a 1 on a 20, that's a 5% chance. And of course, every time your weapon breaks or it falls out of your hand, the boxer breaks his wrist. I've watched a lot of boxing in my life, and I've really never seen anybody break the wrist, break their hand, break, whatever, 1 out of every 20 punches. So sometimes I think game masters get into one-trick ponies in that, but there are meaningful things that people can do in terms of fumbles and crits. So what are some things you like?
So for me, I always like criticals doing more damage. I think that really helps. I think it gives you that sort of, as a player, if you have a crit and you gain you're able to do more damage. It gives you that feeling that you've achieved more, and that's always nice. But I agree with you on the fumble. If you start like dropping your weapons all the time or breaking your wrists or something like that, it can be a bit down. But I do think you need to be able to sort of end up in a position that's not good, or I don't know, maybe that creature sees an opening, because when you went and lunged in and you stubbed his toe as opposed to going for the ribs where you were aiming for, that they actually get a chance to attack you back. That's the sort of thing that I'd like to see, because it's cinematic. You've gone in, you've opened yourself up, and lo and behold, you've just basically walked into his sword, and maybe he gets an extra attack or something like that. To me, rather than just having it so that you sort of broken your wrist or you've dropped your sword, well, maybe it gives your opposition an advantage at that point. And it can work the same way the other way as well. So if they fumble, that you get an attack. Again, that keeps it quite dynamic, and it's a bit of a flow back and forth. And I quite like that. So it doesn't always have to be damage, and it doesn't always have to be I've broken my wrist, I've dropped my sword, I've tripped over, and I'm prone. You can avoid that, but you can start doing it so it gives your opponents advantages against you.
So for me, that's one of the things I love about designing with Heroic 5e and using that 5th edition engine, is that basically I can put in abilities for certain character classes, or even just, feats or what have you, where if someone scores a 1 against you, you get to do a reaction right away and attack them or something like that. But I'm also working to break up the monotony of just, you get to full damage. Well done. All right, let's move on. I'm making a fumble table and a critical hits table as optional rules where, I got a natural 20. All right, roll. And let's see what you get on the table as the effect that benefits you at this point in time. It could just be max damage. If you roll another 20, it could be double damage. But it could also be like, immediately make the guy to make a stun check or a shaken or whatever. There could be extra stuff that happens instead. Same thing for the fumble. It's not just, I broke my thing, or no, there could be other stuff that happens, vary it up. And, for a hobby where we love the randomness of dice, some people, when you bring tables into it, they start getting all squirrely. I don't want a random table to decide that. Well, you let the dice do everything randomly. Why don't you let them decide this as well? It's a great option for me.
The record, I'm the opposite.
Yeah,
I
like
love
that.
random tables. Love them. In almost every circumstance, I love.
What I don't like doing with criticals is infusing them into systems where they aren't baked into the core. People do that with D&D all the time, and I've seen people play basic and BX OSE and say, double damage on a crit. It's like, you know how devastating that is in OSE? Because it's not designed around having criticals. If you're going to put criticals in, you need to do something like Vicky said, like an opening or some mild effect that gives a slight advantage. But if the system's built from the ground up with criticals in mind, then it usually works a lot better. Because that extreme result, it's usually part of the system. But otherwise, yes, criticals are great. The tables, wonderful.
Yeah.
Don't try to shoehorn it into a game.
I do like a good table.
Yeah. Don't shoehorn it into a game that isn't designed around it.
But here's the thing, right? Like the whole 5% of the time thing. Okay, so I've run a lot of different game systems, like probably most of us have. And I've seen games where you use 3d6 to resolve, and someone rolls a 3d6, and they go, I got an 18. I've seen percentile games where 0-1's a crit or 00's a crit, and they're like, 0-1. Everyone explodes at a table on a natural 20 or a natural 1. There's just something about it. It's a dopamine hit. It's an excitement. And I get people are like, it's so dumb. It's 5%. I get what you're saying, but there's no denying the actual in-world effect of it. For some reason, it just triggers people into this great reaction. So I'm a fan of it.
Yeah,
anything that keeps my table alive, I'm a fan of.
That's weird because I played games of 3d6. I played games of percentile dice, and man, even if you just roll high 90s, people are like, yeah, what do we get? It's like, well, you missed the critical by 1. You have to be 98 to 100 to get it. You got a 97. Oh man, damn. So
I hear you. I'm just saying, it's experiences. That's all. You and I live in different worlds. Have you not figured this out yet? We live in mirror universes from each other, there, Max.
So Sean, how do you said you make combat scary, or you like to keep combat scary? How do you do that?
I just let the dice fall where they will. Usually players shit their pants organically. It's it really depends. Players will get themselves into a situation. I'm not going to give them the warning. It's like, you really want to do that? Some player DMs will say, well, that's what you got to do. You got to warn them out of a dangerous situation. No, I don't. I've given them the clues. They've chosen execution. And when the die, I attack with the die roll, and okay, I rolled a 7, and so they're like, "Whew, oh, that hits." I'm like, what? And suddenly they're engaged. They're realizing, oh, this creature can hit me on a 7, and it gets 3 attacks per round. We're fucked. Why did we do this? So just let the dice fall where they will, and let the creatures be the creatures. And sometimes the players will overwhelm, and they'll be the monsters in the situation. That's fine too. But yeah, I don't try to manufacture the terror. I just like the system to fall where it will, and the players will generate their own emotional response. But when combat is chaotic, that in itself will give you the response you want, because players not being able to control every aspect. You got 5e with all the feats and all the abilities. How many times do your players say, I have this feat, I can react and end your turn, or whatever ability. Players are in control, but when you're playing a system where the players aren't in control, they have to be a little more hesitant to get into a fight, and fights are scary in that regard, especially when they're lethal.
But that comes down to choice, doesn't it? It's about making those choices meaningful. We mess up, players mess up. They should take the consequences. Yeah. Same thing if the bad guy messes up, ditto.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes stories feel real. That's what makes the combats feel real at the table, when mistakes are taken advantage of, when there's openings that get, when people see things and they go after them. That's what makes it feel epic.
Right. And then to Max's question, like, I don't feel the need to make it more scary. I don't go out of my way to say, okay, this is going to be more terrifying because of the way I presented it. I just let it do its own job. Let the system do the heavy lifting, and we play the game. And more often than not, players will be sweating when the dice get rolled because they realize they're in their head, or sometimes they're not, and that's fine. Hello, Beans. Or is that Misty?
So let's move on a little bit past just initiative here and criticals. Now, whether you use a battle map or you use theater of the mind, or somewhere hybrid in between like me, which is kind of whiteboarding stuff, when do things like movement and positioning create exciting choices, and when do rules for that kind of activity cause problems or get in the way? Obviously, starting with Vicky.
Well, the one thing I absolutely hated, I think it was 3 or 3.5, was the good old 5-foot step. And that also made it into 4th edition. And that just slowed everything down. We spent most of our time, we'd stand up, we'd lean over the battle map, and we'd be trying to figure out how to move our models 5 foot. And when we were playing 2nd edition, it was mainly theatre of the mind. And moving from that theatre of the mind to sort of pouring over the 5-foot steps, I really hated that. It felt stilted. I didn't enjoy it. I like to be able to move. I like to be able to then act and then move again. I'm quite happy for someone to tell me that my whole movement is 30 foot or 50 foot, but I like to be able to make it natural. I'd like to move, shoot a bow, continue moving, work out what my best trajectory is sensibly and keep going. Stuff like that. I think that makes a massive difference and leads into what I was saying about dynamic combat. But if you have to stop, work out where you're going to move that 5 foot, and if you're trying to flank and you're trying to move around creatures and stuff, that just slows things down, and that I absolutely hate. But
I'm gonna disagree with you, Vic. Sorry.
Yeah, you like your 5-foot steps.
No, I'm just saying players, when they can see what their options are available to them, tend to make realistic choices. When you put it theater of the mind, and I love theater of the mind, players tend to think they can do everything. And they don't think about the battlefield anymore. They just are going, well, I want to over there and shoot an arrow, and they want to climb up the stairs, and they want to hump out the chandelier, and they want to, whoa, there are 10 guys in front of you. You can't just run through them. Whereas when you play with a grid, that eliminates that kind of stuff because they get to see what's happening for them. Now, both sides of that type of combat have their merits. I'm not besmirching one over the other, but slow things down. There's other things players will do in theater of the mind that'll slow things down, including wait. Can you set the scene for me, please, and tell me where everybody is? And like, there's lots of ways. This whole idea of slowing down the game, I don't know when this happened. I think it was in 3rd edition. It really became a big deal for everybody about whether the game played fast or slow. But I never remember us arguing about this in the 2E days, the 1E days, the vampire days, or that back. I don't remember us arguing about that. And then somewhere around D20, it just became this thing where everything was about, well, does it slow down the game? And it's like, one thing I can't stand is when they pick up their dice and they roll their attack and damage at the same time. I'm like, what are you doing? Well, I'm rolling the damage to save time. What do you mean save time? It's going to take like 3 seconds. What do you want, crack?
That is a very common suggestion, even in modern gaming books that say to do that. And I hate it as well. It's like, no, don't get presumptuous here. You will roll your damage if you hit.
Exactly.
But Bear, I agree with you on your grid and looking and having a battle map to see where you are. Absolutely. It was that sort of 5-foot step mechanic that used to drive me insane.
Really? One square was too much?
No, it was really the way it was one of those things because you had to get into certain positions for flanking, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. So scared of that attack of opportunity that might happen.
And it just got really draggy.
How can you make a move without prompting the attack and being vulnerable?
Oh my God.
I don't think this is a big secret. I love using the minis for tactical combat.
Does.
And it enhances it. Yeah, it might slow the game down a little, slow it down. But, I mean, if you're at the table involved, it's not slow for you. Right? If you were somebody watching as an audience, it might be, might like watching grass grow. But if you're actually part of the game, you're usually vested. The time clicks by for you. But to exactly what Bear said, I love having it so the players can see the battle. They can see their options. They can see what's going on. And they know where they're at, what their position is, whether there's somebody sneaking up behind them, whether they've seen it or not, that sort of thing. All of that is there. And I mean, because I run AD&D, so it's also more important for AD&D, which evolved from the war game. So it really lends to that style of play. And I used to do theater of the mind, and once I started going grid, I never went back. I just, there are games I can play theater of the mind for sure, like Call of Cthulhu, but when I play D&D, I want my minis, damn it. I want them. I want my battle map. I want my battlefield generated on the fly because it's a random encounter in the forest. I want all that shit. I want to see it. I want players to see it too. I want them to know that, oh shit, they've only got one segment of movement. It's not enough to get cover, and the enemies are all aiming crossbows at him. He moves, and he doesn't get to that tree in time, and he takes a bunch of hits. Or he got 2 segments on initiative, and he's able to dive behind that tree before the enemy shoots. Safe. I like that sort of granularity.
Yep.
It does make the battle picture. Yeah, it does make the battle picture clearer, and it does stop people going, "Oh well, where is everybody?" But I think there has to be a nice balance, and that's where I do quite like seeing the grid, but I don't want to be welded to it. So there has to be a balance between it, because the imagination's a funny thing, and it can really break you out of what you're doing if I'm just there going 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and I don't want to be doing that. I just don't. I like being able to have a good idea of what's around me, have that picture, but I don't necessarily want to be there counting squares. Now, if I'm just wargaming, that's absolutely different. I'll get out my tape measure and I'm fine. But when I'm playing a role-playing game, I quite like seeing where we are is great, but actually constantly having to count, I just find it really annoying. But I can just
Sorry, go on, Barry.
It's ironic because I won't use battle maps with my all-girl game. I won't. I will not use battle map. There's one player in that group that I would use a battle map with, and that's Nerd's Nerd, because she's a tactical gamer, right? Everybody else, they just want to feel good and vibe their way through the combat, so I'm going to let them feel good and vibe their way through the combat. I do not feel the GM's job is to be adversarial to the players. Mm-hmm. The GM is there to be cooperative, to make the story good, to make the engagement good, to make the game fun. Now, yes, you are playing the bad guys, and you should play them to the best of their ability.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you should not be playing them punitively, and you should not be making combat punishment. Oh, you got in combat? Well, it sucks to be you. Now I'm going to beat the shit out of you because I know the game better than you. Like, no. There you go. My deposit in the swear jar. There's one for you, Max. I'm $50 behind this guy, but, there's one for you.
and you always will be. I mean, from a DM perspective, I like to approach it as I'm an arbiter. I don't have a vested interest in beating the players, and that distinction can get blurred, obviously, as the NPCs who are fighting the characters. I have a vested interest in beating the players, but I personally do not. And so I just adjudicate what happens, what choices are made, and that's where when we roll back to the declarations are important, because then me as the DM, I'm making the declarations, and I don't vary from that. It's like, okay, this is me committing to an action, and there have been times when my monsters, the ones I'm controlling, their actions get screwed up because something the players did. It's like, well, it'd be very easy to fudge and say, well, they decided to do this. I was like, nope, they got fucked because you did this play. It was a very good play, and you should benefit from it. So as an arbiter, neutral arbiter, I'm like, nope, that was a good move. This is this was the result of what you guys did, carrying on.
Absolutely.
So that's my approach to the game, and having the minis and all that, it aids to that, because then I can make my decisions based on what's going on and the declarations that are made, etc.
Yeah, I do want to say something to the chat, because a lot of them are talking about it ruins the immersion. I do not mean this. It is for comedy purposes only. Get better at imagining. Fuck. If that's what's ruining your immersion, you can pretend you're a wizard, but I saw a miniature, now I can't pretend my character. Come on, get better at imagining, please.
Actually,
right.
I'm one of those people where it actually makes it harder when I see the miniatures. Not that I can't, but it does make it harder. Just seeing the same guy looking like this every time, and I'm trying to visualize what's going on, puts that in my brain where it's like, okay.
Gary, be nice, Gary. I clearly said it was a joke. You don't have to be mean, Gary. Get over it. Come on.
All right, let's see. Do I have anything else you guys want to talk about in this first segment before we move into, I think it's action economy or some nonsense term like that?
I think there was just
I don't know why that's not my segment, but go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Vic. Sorry.
Well, one bit, communication, because I know you said before when we led in this about communication, and I think that's one of the things that can sometimes cause problems at the table, is when everybody stops to discuss for like 20 minutes what the plan is, and the bad guys are sort of sat there going, pardon, what's going on? So I think communication is one of those things that you have to try and not overwhelm the whole of the game by discussing the plan. I remember a business unusual session where my character actually got bored waiting for them to come up with a plan, and went off and actually triggered what was going on, because they were going around in circles talking about the plan all the time. And I was like, right, that's it. What we're going to do is I'm just going to walk around the corner, we'll see what will happen, then we can all react to it, because I'm bored now. So yes, communication between the players is absolutely important, and you can't get too bogged down in trying to plan. Sometimes you've got to actually realize that there's some urgency there and go for it.
Yeah, pre-battle, make all the strategies you want. Once we're in the thick of it, you can give us 6 seconds.
I agree.
That's it.
I agree. And this is one of the things that I really agree with hankering for a nail back in the old days when I was learning 5e, and I was watching a lot of these 5e guys' channels to learn the game and learn the mechanics and figure out the knowledge. Give me the knowledge. And he talked about how every scenario, every scene of a battle that he's going to have, there's going to be a timer, a threat, and a treat in that scenario. And I always thought about it, like, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. The idea that there's a timer. So if the players are constantly screwing around, something is counting down. And they don't realize it. Maybe they don't even understand it's counting down until it counts down to 0. And then suddenly the threat kicks off for them, and they're suddenly dealing with, oh my God, wah. Well, you stood around the door arguing like a bunch of idiots. Now, conversely, on the Theater of the Mind, I had one player one time, we were doing, Sunless Citadel. And they were in the grove in the bottom. They were at the climax of the thing. And this one player was playing a wizard, and we were using a battle map, and I didn't see it. No one else saw it, but he kept just maneuvering himself. Every turn, now I move, and we were like, what is he doing? Why isn't he attacking me? And eventually he just got himself into a position where he had a straight line of enemies from the flank, and lightning bolted through them all. And and everyone was like, holy, like none of us saw it coming. It was a brilliant move, right? Really good stuff. So that can give you those sorts of things. At the same time, I ran another game where they all were funneling into a chamber with a goblin shaman that had fireball, and just before it was the goblin's turn, one player went, oh shit, we're all in fireball position. I'm like, exactly, fireball, make your saves, and they put themselves into the choke position with their movement choices. So I can see the theater of the mind. I run tons of theater of the mind, and I get the benefits of it, but I also see the benefits of mapping combat as well. So I'm literally agnostic on this topic.
You know what I have found though, is moving from theatre of the mind to sort of the rough maps where you've got an idea where everything is and you can see things, then it can be very difficult if you go back to theatre of the mind afterwards. So that's one of the things I would say. When you get used to having the maps, it makes it difficult to go back. Sorry, Max.
No. Actually, I'm going to make my comment in a little bit because there's a chat that I starred that's going to lead me into it. So we're good. All right,
Gary, it's okay. Gary, love you, Gary. We're good.
I just one more thought on the
go ahead.
on the subject is one thing I absolutely hate is when DMs are extremely arbitrary about what they do with the players, and like you've got it where, for example, a morale. People will like fucking Luke Hart had a whole big controversy because he said morale rules are stupid. You should never use them. I'm like, you're an idiot. You always use morale rules. And I hate when they arbitrarily make decisions where you should let the dice do their thing, and because you can really get the you can really torpedo the game when a DM is arbitrarily deciding everything. This guy is so skilled he doesn't even roll to strike, he hits you. I've actually been in games where he does that. It's like, okay, well, D10. Oh, you died. Oh, well, thanks for that. Even though my armor class was pretty solid, and there was only a 50-50 chance he would hit me, he decided that, well, because he was so good, he hit me, and I died because of an auto hit. So I hate that. I hate when DMs arbitrarily dump things on them.
Conversely, one of the things that annoys the crap out of me is DMs who've never been in a fight in their life, and they think they understand how combat works, and they think they understand the realities of psychology in a combat or awareness in a combat, and you're just sitting there going, no, that's not it's chaos, man. A fight is chaos. It's absolute chaos.
That's where you let the system do its work, right?
Yes.
You roll morale. You roll morale and justify the results. You don't say, well, it's obvious he would flee. Well, no, maybe not. Maybe he's a fanatic. Roll the dice, see what happens. Oh, it's dice that flee. Then there's no argument.
Yeah. Oh no, my God! The goblins made the morale save, even though you've killed 8 of them out of the 12. These guys are in it to win it. They think they've still got the upper hand. Maybe they haven't realized their buddies are dead yet. Who knows? But the point is that if you just make decisions as a GM, then go play a game that doesn't use dice and is based around the GM telling you what happens. Oh wait, that's called storytelling. Just go storytell. Just go sit around a campfire and tell ghost stories, please, and let the rest of us roll dice and have fun. That's all I'm saying. But there's an inverso to that. Your player goes through a moment. Something happens in the game that is shocking to them, and as a result, they get a shaken or something like that, right? The minute that condition wears off, they feel like they're back to full. And it's like, could you role play a little bit here, man? You just saw, your mother's intestines get pulled out in front of you. Yeah, mechanically the effect's worn off, but maybe your character's still processing some of that. Maybe,
Yeah.
No, I'm a hardened first level adventurer.
Yeah, exactly.
I've killed dragons and wizards in my backstory.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, you know what? I think we're going to talk a little bit more about combat in the next segment. So I think we're ready to move on here. So yeah, next up, our panelists will discuss action economy and player agency. We'll probably be talking about battle maps and theater of the mind again. That's my guess. We'll find out here. So who do you believe had the most compelling, interesting, or novel position? Did you learn anything new that you may try at your table? Or did you, did you recount or remember something old that you're going to bring back to your table? How about that? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to all the panelist channels, which you'll find in the description. Your watch time, your comments, your shares really, really do help keep this type of conversation reach more RPG fans. The last 2 of these, you guys have done a really good job sharing stuff around. YouTube tells me some things, and our views are starting to move back up to where they used to be. So thank you very much. Please keep it up. You guys are awesome. Now, finally, we are looking for a panelist like you. Matter of fact, next week, we're 1 panelist short right now. So, we could really use a panelist for next week. But before you can just say, it's me, sign up on the Game Master Insight Discord, read the rules, and find a panel topic that interests you. Now, let's look at some of your super chats and the comments and whatnot. And right off the bat, Gaming with ADHD for $1.99 says for Sean Swear Jar. So he didn't backfill Bear at all. He just did it for Sean. So there you go.
I'm going to spell right. It's like posted right there, you know.
Then we have Paladin Forge. Hey, Vicky, Bear, Sean, Max, chat. There you go. Oh, I'm supposed to wave too.
I don't know why y'all copied me, you bunch of copycats.
Because we wanted to, Bear. Because we wanted to.
Driving and Dragons, who's been very active in the chat today. Thank you very much. With 1,000 jewels. I still don't know what they do. I should probably look it up at some point. But you know what? I got 1,000 of them. I got some bling. Thank you very much. And it's yellow. So, I mean, yellow usually means like $10. So, 1,000 jewels, $10? That'd be awesome. I don't know. Anyway, next is Plainsman says, most characters shouldn't have perfect knowledge of a battle map. A loose drawing should do, if anything. And here's where as somebody said at the end also, I don't like perfect battle maps because, and one of the things I've said on many live streams is I hate this concept of like, he's going to cast it here and I'm going to stand 1 inch away from where the fireball effect ends and you can't hurt me. I despise that greatly. And I do believe that combat is a scrum. So, but I also understand that not everybody's idea of theater of the mind is perfect visuals, and we all don't see the same thing. So, I recently, when I was younger, I used a hex board that I just kind of randomly drew on. Now I use more whiteboarding, but I whiteboarded out. So you're about here, you're about there. How far away is that? Are you a fucking tape out there? Now I cussed.
Swear jar.
It's like I was like, I don't know. Are you a freaking tape measure? Didn't think so. So, good luck with that. I'll give them approximation, but I won't give them exact. One of the things I'll do, and I've said this a lot as well, is if you're going to cast a fireball in D&D and the characters are close, like, well, I want to be right out of range of it. Well, you think you might be. The wizard thinks he's thrown it in the right spot. Make a saving throw for half or none. If you're right on the edge, things like that. Or make a dex check to see if you get to exactly where you want to go before poof. There are a lot of little different things that you can do to make that happen. But I despise the whole exacting square by square perfection that people think that they'd have in combat. It's not real. No, you're not going to get it. What do you guys think?
I love the fact that in AD&D 1E, most people try to calculate it when they throw that fireball on the ground, but they forget that it expands to fill the space in AD&D. So it usually blasts back and hits them all. I've had a couple of TPKs that way. It throws them off, but they don't make that mistake twice.
Yeah, see, for me, I hate two things that you're talking about there. One, the edge of the blast. No, you're getting half damage at the edge of the blast. If you're within 5 feet of that fireball, take half damage. And I hate the evasion rules of, I saved and I take no damage even though I was in the center of the fireball. Fuck off, rogue. You know what I mean? Like, just get out of the game. You broke the game. It sucks. So I house rule right away. Evasion and all that, quarter damage. So if I make the save, I normally take half damage, but any save where I would only take half damage and take no damage, no, you take half the damage again. So you'll take quarter damage at that point. So that way there's still a little singe on your ass as you get out of the way.
Yeah, it should always be something, shouldn't there? There's the whole point is if you're even close to something, it would hurt. You'd get, even if it's, a mild sunburn, you'd feel it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that unfortunately gets back to where the gamer side of the gamers will be like, well, the rules say that I'm safe because here's the template that I put out here, because that's where the fireball. And I'm not saying I agree with that. You guys know I don't. The point that I'm making though is there's the gamer side, as you guys have talked about. There's the theater kid side, as you guys have talked about. There's somewhere in the middle that we've talked about. So, it's going to be however you decide to do it at your table.
Cool. I'm glad you brought out that template, and I'm glad you feel like you're running the game. You may leave now. Goodbye.
Right.
Or fine, sure, you're absolutely right. I have no argument. You are right at the very edge of the blast. You take no damage, and then when the next enemy does it to them, conveniently he's precisely metered it, so he's out of the edge, and you take full damage.
Oh, you know what? That's great. You're outside the damage. Everything's cool. Next round, give me a dex save. What for? Well, the fireball lit the roof on fire, and the rafters are falling on you now.
But it's a cavern. Oh, the impact still shook up the
stalagmites are the ones up top, I think.
Stalactites above, stalagmites below.
Oh, and their piercers on top of that.
And their piercers who were having an orgy with ropers. Now you're really fucked.
holding you in place and just falling on you. Oh God, that's awesome. Okay, moving on here. Not any type of confrontational GM in that regard. No, not at all. Love it. So Mr. Max off the rails roleplay says, what I don't like with the battle maps is that it changes your perspective. You're no longer in the eyes of your character. You're in a top-down third-person view.
Yeah, not a problem for me.
Yeah, I've already made my joke about that, so I'm just going to let it go.
Okay, then. Well, let's get ready to get into our second conversation here. So, again, I have all the information on my sheet wrong, so we're actually starting with Sean for the second conversation, which is going to explore action economy and player agency. I hate the term action economy. I'm actually not even a fan of player agency the way it's used nowadays, but I just hate the term action economy. I really do. I hate it. But, Sean, when action economy works, players feel engaged and even dangerous. When it breaks, combat can become slow, repetitive, or wildly lopsided. This segment focuses on how actions, reactions, bonus options, multi-attacks, turn structure affect player agency, combat balance, and the pace of each round.
Yes, it all does. I no longer run 5th Ed. I ran 5th Ed for a couple of years, so I used all that, obviously the reactions and stuff. Combat got slow, but we just rolled with it. We tried to speed it up as much as possible. In terms of the older school stuff around AD&D and OSE, the new nuanced options are presented differently. So like I said, that you've got your declarations, and you make your choice. The thing that slows things down will be the exceptions that happen to initiative. In AD&D, it's not just a matter of I roll high, I go first. You have to check for exceptions, and that's where things get bogged down. Now, that's a price I'm willing to pay, and my players like it too, so we're fine with it. But it's a case of, for example, if you have 2 attack routines, you automatically trump initiative against people with fewer attack routines. So if you're a high-level warrior and you're fighting, your usual first-level mook, and you have 2 attacks per round, attack routines, even if that other Mook 1 initiative, you would actually trump that and go first, attack first if you were in melee. So things like that come up. That'll slow down AD&D. But yeah, for the most part, when you're doing that, whatever system you're using, it's like Bear said earlier, you get system mastery. System mastery will cut down that. For 5th Ed gets really ridiculous at higher levels, no matter how good you are with the system, unless you are whip smart and ready to go on your turn, it's going to get bogged down because the options in 5th Ed have gotten insane by the time you're at 10th level. You need a spreadsheet to see what you can do. And I understand it's even worse in 4th edition. I never played 4th, but 4th edition is the tabletop video game simulator or whatever. So
can I ask you a question about that? Because I'm truly ignorant when it comes to this, because I never played 5e long enough to get to that point. As somebody like me, who I don't even like to use game terms when I'm playing, go watch any of the Pathfinder 2 games I was in. I like to just have my character do something that's organic to the situation. What do you mean by the player has so many options available to them? That's kind of confusing to me because...
So in 5e, you get your feats, you get your subclass abilities, you get this laundry list of things you can do with your bonus action or your reaction or your main action. A monk, for instance, has to spend a point of key to be able to get a bonus attack, and then by the time you put it all together, you've got this ridiculous round where players are like, okay, well, I'm gonna attack, and then I'm gonna summon this ability to get a bonus attack, and then I'm gonna use my actual bonus action. The bonus attack I got wasn't my bonus action. It was just an extra attack that I got with my main action. Now I'm gonna use my bonus action to get this attack, and he's gonna take a hit, so I'm allowed to use my reaction to get another attack, and I'm gonna take my movement on top of that. And so it just compounds with the options.
Don't forget haste.
What? Oh yes, I've been hasted, so I can do it all again, right?
So here's a simple thing: don't play D&D. This problem only exists in D&D. I swear to God. Yeah, it exists in 4E, 3E. 3E was crowded with that stuff. The stuff you were just describing about 1E and 2E, most people think 1E and 2E play faster because they ignore 90% of the rules of combat, which you've done excellent videos on, including that fabulous one about initiative or whatever it was, which was just hilarious on how complex it was. That's the point. The only thing 5E and 4E did was they just made it more clear and defined with this action economy that he hates so much. And yes, it can get silly. Past 10th level, it gets absolutely absurd what people can do in a round. It's nonsense game at that point in time. But at the lower levels, I like the action economy because it gives the less tactical player a clear picture of what they can and cannot do in a round. They know what their stuff does. They know if it's a reaction. They know if it's a bonus action. And yeah, sometimes they're going to mistake things. Sometimes you got to ask them as a GM. Nothing wrong with that for me.
So I want to point out, RPG Gen XL says he's never experienced that. Obviously there was a little bit of embellishment there too.
A little bit of hyperbole.
Hyperbole, but yes, but it does get to a point where there are a lot of options and considerations, and to slow things down, especially if you've dumped a fairly new player into a game. It's like, here's a 10th level character because we're all 10th levels and we want to start here, and so you don't have that system mastery. But yeah, now it's to Bear's point of don't play D&D. Well, no, shame on you. I don't play my D&D, but yeah, system mastery is key. I mean, that's a point Bear made earlier. You do have to know the system. You can make it flow a lot better once you know the system in and out. And even with the most experienced players, there's going to be a lag once in a while. I had one of my players a couple of weeks back in our game. He normally runs vanilla fighters. That's his comfort zone. A dwarven fighter is his thing. But for this game, he's experimenting. He's trying a half-elven fighter cleric. And we got to a point where he's like, he doesn't know the spells. He's still not 100%. So he was like at the book, didn't know what he wanted to do. And he didn't know how it works. So it was a little bit of a bog down, even with an experienced player. But sometimes it's just okay. It's like, all right, sometimes the game is going to get slowed a little. The trick is just, okay, identifying the slow parts and, okay, what do we work on next? It's like, okay, guys, when we're playing, be ready on your turn kind of thing.
I do find
it's open to everybody. So.
Yeah, I do find with especially 5e, the fighters get tons and tons and tons of stuff they can do, and then I normally play spellcasters, and it comes to me, and I'm like, I do my thing, and that's me done. And it doesn't matter if I get hasted; it does bugger all, quite frankly. And I always find that that's quite annoying. And I also think that as mages can actually chuck some stuff in, especially at high levels, that can derail games and completely trash the combat balance very quickly. I'm going to highlight Maze. Maze was something that was, you'd come onto the battlefield and there's no save, and you could get rid of the big bad for a while, and then they could come back, but it means you could start mopping up the rest of the battlefields. Things like Maze, stuff like that, used to really swing those battles. But at the same time, you could do that a couple of times if you were lucky. Whereas fighters were getting how much stuff to do all the time. So you'd find the fighters' turns would be forever, and the mages' turns would be like done.
I don't know what game you're playing, because for me, fighters are very straightforward in 5e. It's the rogues that are the pain in the butt, because they're the ones who have all the bibbity bobbity boo over the map, reaction, counter attack. Rogues are insane. They broke the game with rogues. They're just like, it's disgusting how they're not thieves. They're just skirmish, fast moving fighters. You know what I mean? It's like, so I don't know. I mean, fighters, I don't know what kind of fighters you guys are playing, but I've never seen fighters take up the most combat. I've always seen in 5e rogues be okay, and that's the rogue's turn. Everybody go get pizza. Well, he tells me 8 things he's doing this round, and so I don't know. See, but so that's it. Look at the difference. But hang on. But hang on, Vic. Look at this. You're talking about your experiences. I'm talking about mine. Max is talking about the ones he's heard about. People in the chat are talking about some. Sean. 5e clearly produces very different results at very different tables. And that, again, comes back to system mastery and the table. And it's not the game that's the problem. It is not the game. It is the way people are playing, the way people are choosing, right? Wizards in his beloved oney, at a certain point, why the hell is the rest of the party there?
Yeah,
They
not
have a
needed.
spell that does everything every other class does better. Why do you, just play Ars Magica at that point in time, right? Just be the people who serve the wizard. Just saying.
I thought that's what fighters were supposed to be there for.
Wow, that is a wizard perspective if I ever heard one.
No. We talk about that quite a bit in old school D&D. The wizard is an investment. You keep him behind you, keep him safe, and then
Exactly. Meat
then when
shield.
he starts to shine, around mid-level, around 5th level, when he gets his fireball and lightning bolt, you let him have a little fun. Then you push him in the back. Then by the time it's like 10th, 12th level, you're like, "Do you just tell me where I need to stand so I don't get hurt by your crap? I will be there. I will chop the things I need to chop and keep them off you. You go, boy." That's how it's supposed to work. That's a feature, not a flaw.
However, one 5e game I did turn into Uber. I just ended up teleporting the party everywhere, moving them round the bloody battlefield, and then just going, "It's all right, guys, I'll just walk, shall I?" Yes, that's great. That was really quite funny, and it was good fun, but to a point. So yeah, I have to say that sometimes I do think the fighters, and you're right, the rogues get lots of fun. The mages get some fun, but I don't think they get quite as much in D&D as the fighters and some of the other classes.
Something touched upon that sort of, I mean, I wouldn't say a pet peeve, but not a preference of mine, is the whole turn-based thing where everybody takes their turn around the table, and we get to you, Vicky, and we get to Bear, as opposed to an order of operations where you go based on a specific, based on what you've declared, like first E. I prefer that, where it's like, okay, who's moving? Who declared that they're staying out of combat? Okay, you get your segments of movement. Who's declared the missile? All right, go ahead, shoot. Right, that sort of thing. And I think that actually helps with a flow, because now you've got your order of operations, and everybody's just waiting for you to say, okay, well, now we're on order of operations. Whereas when you get the turn-based, that slows things down, because most people tend to tune out. Engaged players, not so much, obviously, but the average player, you've probably had this, where they're on their phone and it's like, oh, is it my turn? Right? And that happens when you've got the turn-based thing where it's everybody around the table. And then you get DMs who ignore the initiative and say, okay, I'm going to go clockwise around the table just because. And I think that
I
problem.
hate that.
Yeah, it's like, well, initiative is a big part of the system. Use it. But it does ultimately have the same thing. It's like, going, one person goes, the next person goes, and if somebody's not paying attention or haven't decided what they're going to do, you're going to slow down the game.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so continuing on with that concept there, when do things like reactions, and I'm not going specific with D&D, it doesn't matter the game you play, because you might love them, you might hate them, depending on the game. When do things like reactions and bonus options create excitement, and the player feels like, oh, look at this, whether it's his build or his agency or whatever it happens to be, look at this, look where I'm going, I'm doing something awesome. And when do those things, as you guys were talking, because I want more specifics now, when do those things slow it down? And Sean, starting with you.
When players aren't ready for it, when they haven't made their decision or thought about it in advance. And then we're gonna tie back to system mastery, every time this comes up. If I've got 5 potential options and I wait till my turn to start thinking about them, game's gonna slow down. If Bear and Vicky are ahead of me and I know they're blasting through their turns, I better be ready when you say, Sean, it's your turn, what do you do? Right? That's the only real problem with having multiple options, is players not considering what they're going to do. Have your prime plan ready to go, even if you don't have to pre-declare it. It's like, all right, I'm going to do X, and then Bear's plan screwed up my X. Well, I have my backup plan. I'm going to do Y, and that'll keep the flow going.
One of the things that I'm putting as an optional rule in Heroic 5e, for example, is that if you score 5 beyond your target number, you get a strong effect. If you get a 10 or higher, you get a heroic effect. But I was trying to figure out ways to speed that up, because people can sometimes bog down looking at the choices, going, well, what do I want? And having players pick, these are your default 3. These are the default 3 strong effects you would use. These are the default 3 here. You can choose other ones, but if you don't know what to do, one of those 3 is going to be your choice, and that'll speed things up and move along. And player mastery is a huge thing. Look, I've gotten in trouble on here for saying I don't believe in player agency. I believe in character agency, right? I think player agency is knowing the God-forsaken game, knowing what you do, paying attention, being engaged, and making rational choices based on what your character is able to do. Not starting every turn, and I have a player who does this with, "Can I?" And then they describe some scenario that is like, oh, dear God, can you just know your character sheet, please, and know what you can do? Can you stop making every turn especially in a playtest, I don't want to use the rules. I want to make up some new thing every time it's a turn. And that is... For some people, that's a creative way of playing the game, and I get that. But for a lot of people, it's I don't know the rules. So I'm just going to make up something in my head and see if I'm allowed to do it. And that bothers me. And that slows the game down.
To a degree, I think it's fine if they're interacting with the scenario. Somebody doesn't know the rules and says, I'm going to do X. And then you as the DM can say, okay, well, that fits into X category. Mechanically, I can process that. But yeah, when you're saying things like when they stop the game to give you the Q&A about what they can and can't do, it's like, no, you got to curb that. It's like, make a choice. Make a choice.
What's the term Mr. Max uses for that? They test drive their action. Can I? What happens if I and I do and that? Can that happen? Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you on that, Sean.
Yeah, I think with reactions, I think as long as you understand what reactions you can do as a player, and you understand what triggers that actually allow you to do that, and you understand that, you can actually fit it in really well. I think the time that reactions slow down a game is if the player doesn't understand it, or the GM hasn't described what's going on sufficiently to trigger those reactions. I think it has to be a combination of both, that both the GM and the player understand what triggers reactions, what can actually allow them to happen, and I think then you get a match made in heaven. If the player doesn't understand when they can use it, that's when you get problems, and that's when you get well, can I do something in that situation? Exactly what you've just said, and that's if they don't understand. But isn't that coming back to the fact it's my responsibility as a player to know my character because I made it?
Yeah, and there's the good player who knows their character doesn't say, oh, that opportunity opened up, and can I do something? They go, oh, that opportunity opened up, so now I can do this. And that, I think, is
for it.
Yeah, it's playing the game. Everyone forgets GAME.
Yeah. But that's the whole point, isn't it? You look for those opportunities, and that's what keeps the flow going. It's when you don't look for the opportunities, you're not paying attention, that's when the game stalls. Because not only that, when the GM is looking at how everything bolts together, they know what you've got. So they when they're working out what creatures to put against you and everything else, they will have a good idea of what the creatures can do, and they'll be waiting for you to use your stuff. And if you don't, it'll be like, oh well, lost opportunity. I think when you're learning a game, the GM can say, oh, you remembered you've got so-and-so. But I think once you've been playing for a while, you forget you've got it. Well, that's your problem.
So to caveat something I said earlier, I'm not saying I'm against players saying, hey, can I try this? And coming up with a creative use of their character. That's not an issue for me. Hey, I've got this ability. Can that let me do this? That's great. I want more of that. I want you to be thinking like that. It's when it's clear they don't know anything about how their character works. They haven't learned the rules. They just know that they roll a d20 and want high. And then every frickin' turn is, can I?
Well, they're trying to push their luck.
Well, they're not trying. No, they're not trying to push their luck. I get people who are trying to push their luck. I respect the hustle. These are people who literally just don't know how to play the godforsaken game. They don't know what their character can do. And what I say to them at that point in time, and people think I'm mean when I do this, I go, I don't know. What does it say on your character sheet? And that's my
while
answer.
you're looking at that, Sean, what's your turn? What are you doing?
Exactly. So we'll come back to you. And blah, blah, blah. And then there are people out there who say, well, if you skip a player's turn, you're stealing their agency. Well, they're stealing mine by not knowing what to do or be ready to go when it's their turn. So
Bear had I just have to say this out loud. So Bear had a very similar comment last week, and somehow that got clipped Well, I clipped it, but I didn't look for that part. But that part got clipped, and man, my Instagram, which I never use. I mean, I post advertising out there. That went viral for my channel.
Yeah.
When he was saying this, and about 90% of the people on there, it got well over it's like things had like 1,500 likes now or something like that, and a couple hundred.
Yay!
90% of the comments were agreeing with him, but the 10% that weren't were basically that. What about new people? Even though you guys did talk about new people, didn't make it into the clip. I'm not there to have a job or play a game. 2 days later, that one posted. But. You get what I'm saying, but there are some people out there who think that this is just I'm just here for the social part of it. So you tell me what to do. No, this is a commitment. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, it's feeding off what you said. Engage with the damn game. Yes, it's a social commitment. That's great. You're having fun like everybody else. Still engage with the game. You can keep the social part, but you're going to engage with the game. When I've got people I have a stock response when people use the predictive questions. Can I do X, or what will happen if I do Y? I'm like, I don't know. I just work here. they know it's like.
I'll have to ask the manager. Hang on. They'd leave the table, go to the kitchen, make a sandwich, come back. Manager says no. Do you have a coupon? Do you have a coupon?
Trying to get information out of me, or be predictive and can I do this? So as Max says, the test drive move, it's like, no, I just work here. I have no idea. Make a choice and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, on the social stuff though, that should be before and it should be after the game, not whilst other people are trying to do turns. And I hate that. There's
other than to
worse.
cheer on some dice rolls or something. I absolutely agree with you.
But that's cheering on dice rolls. That's part of the game. But it's when somebody's talking about what they did, the last weekend, whilst you're all in the game trying to sort of move the game on, and then two people are having a side chat. That's really annoying.
Yeah.
Before the game, during lunch when you're all having pizza, and after the game, not whilst you're playing.
I have to say, by the way, real fast, I just love the way Brits say weekend as opposed to us. We just go weekend. We just make it one word, like one sound. You guys are you break it up like weekend.
Well, they're asking a question, like, are we allowed to be off work? Can we?
Yeah, exactly. Am I allowed to enjoy myself right now? There's no sun, it's raining, and the economy's shit. What can I do?
All right.
You can game.
You can game, yes. So starting with Sean again, how do multi-attack abilities, or just multiple attacks per round for that matter, affect things like fairness, like the speed of the game, the encounter or the round tempo? I've seen that where, man, you have multiple attacks per round, it still goes pop, 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 pop. And other times when it's like, oh my God, you have 3 attacks every 2 rounds. Why does it feel like you have, 3 attacks every 2 hours? What's going on here? So how do those kind of things affect play?
Not really for me. In my main game, my AD&D game, anybody who has a lot of extra attacks or attack routines, they're usually going first. So, I don't know if you're familiar with the Mook rule in AD&D, where fighters can get 1 attack per level of experience against anything with less than a full hit die. So we're in the range now where all the fighters are 6th or 7th levels. So if they're fighting Mooks, like, okay, 6th level fighter against Mooks is going to get 3 attacks before the Mooks go. So it's like, all right, just do them all at once, right? So it's pretty fast.
I used to love that rule because we played Greyhawk, which is full of a lot of less than 1 hit die creatures is the bulk of it all. I'm like, what day do 5 20 level fighters just go, let's make a kingdom in the Pomarge and just head down there and just start killing things? Because holy shit,
the 20 level fighters are warrior gods, right? So
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, and even when I ran 5th, it wasn't that big a deal. I mean, we got to about 6th level, so it wasn't into the super mega high range. And the barbarian had the most attacks. He usually had 2 or 3. But 5th ed was run. You take your whole damn turn all at once. You're not dividing it up. So it was just like, all right, I'll make this attack and I'll make this attack. Done. Oh, you're drinking, Max. You're drinking.
I'm going to take this opportunity to go get a cup of coffee.
Well, no, I don't drink on this stream. I don't drink until the end of the.
No, I know, but you're going to ask another question, and I'm going to take my step. I'm going to make a cup of coffee. Do you want me awake, or do you want me? Bear, what do you think about this? Peanut butter. I like peanut butter. It's great.
Bruce
Football
fell
practice.
asleep on a live stream once, so why not?
Yes, I remember, under his table, no less.
So
All
yeah,
right.
anyway, multiple attacks doesn't really impede the flow. It's just it's part of the sequence, and if you have fighters in your group, multiple attacks is kind of their bread and butter at high levels. You don't want to ruin that or take it away or diminish it. So you make it
You know,
part
it's
of it.
funny. Last time you were on, Sean, I think we disagreed a lot. Today, I don't think I've disagreed with anything you've said.
Well, it's because you're getting smarter and wiser as you get older.
I'm just a very, unlike everything else in my life, I am very, very middle of the road when it comes to everything from like game versus story, rule of cool versus, rules as written. This slows down a game. This is okay to be slow. Yeah, you get the whole thing. And I think last time it was just we were here. Now we're here. And anywho, Vicky, did you want to say anything add on to that, or do you want me to ask the question again, or?
Multi-attacks. I've always found that it can slow the game down. Now I tend to play a lot of mages, but when I do play fighters, I do really enjoy my multi-attacks. So you're right. I wouldn't want you to take it away, but at the same time, I think there are better ways of doing it, which is probably why we haven't got multi-attacks in Untold Destiny. And it flows really well, but I think D&D, I think you'd lose a lot if you didn't have the multi-attacks, because when you look at high levels, the spells that the mages are throwing around, then the multi-attacks is all that the fighters have got. But one of the things I think that can make a game go really lopsided are some of what I call the world breaking spells. So I would use stuff like Wish, some of the mass heals where you've got the bad guy on the ropes, or the bad guy's got you on the ropes, and all of a sudden you're back up to full hit points or something like. And that to me is what slows it down more than the multi attacks. The number of times we've got the bad guy down on the ropes, and then they've got a big spell, and then it feels like you've got to do it all again, or vice versa. And it's just like, oh God, no. And that's the bit that I find drags out combat, especially in 5e. You look at Wish, you can bring a whole party up to full hit points. Admittedly, you might never be able to cast it again if you're unlucky, but you can bring your party back up to full hit points, get rid of all of the nasty effects, and basically off you go again.
Yeah, they reduced the penalty for casting Wish. In first edition, the penalty was you aged 5 years.
Yep.
And then of course, rapid aging means a system shock check or you immediately die. So you weren't spamming that spell, and then I guess they know that in later editions. It's like, I'll just spam the wishes.
Yeah, I know in second edition, whenever I used Wish, that was always quite scary. But fifth edition, everyone was like, oh, but if you use it, you might lose the ability. And I'm like, yeah, and there's a roll, and I'll roll. And I used it a lot. And it would really take a fight where we were up against it and we were back up to full, no, absolutely zero bad effects on us. And it did feel, after a while, it was like, oh, do I really want to use Wish again? Because it just felt, oh, really? Oh,
you can
God,
really,
everybody's...
You can really slow down and play with
angry.
Mage if you're casting a lot of area effects stuff too, where all of the enemies, and there's a lot of enemies, have to make individual saving throws. It's like, all right, then you gotta go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times we focus so much on what the fighters are slowing down, we all forget that the mages are doing that too. Mazes, counter spells, that's always a good one. We banned counter spell because I was the mage and I hated it. I was the mage and I was an abjurer and I hated counterspell. It was like, nope, get rid of it. I've had enough. I'm bored of always waiting just to use counterspell.
Yeah.
So all of those things would slow down, and you're always expected to have the same spells. You always got to have fireball. You always got to have this. And you're right that at a high level, a mage suddenly becomes your rogue. You got everything takes over the skills, and I don't like that. So to me, I think oh, we're not going to.
Okay, so it's Bear that's hissing. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, it's 100 degrees here. I got a fan on. I apologize. It's death or hiss, so I chose hiss.
Hey, you know what? Dying will probably get me some money. Go for it.
Shut your filthy whore.
Well, there was another $50, so Max is taking 2 drinks today.
There we go. Ooh, look at that. Nice. Okay, so in Phase Rip, in Heroic Classic, what I did, because multi-attacks is a part of the game. You can make a multi-attack feat at the start of your turn and have multiple actions or multiple attacks that round. What I did was I made a very simple rule. Second actions, third, fourth, fifth, go after everybody's first actions. So no one's sitting there waiting for you to do 20 things. It's like, okay, what are you doing? Do that? All right, great. Okay, it's your turn, your turn. All right, we got second actions. You do? Okay, what are you doing? All right, we got a third action. What are you doing? And it kept it rolling really, really fast and fun. And, you know, D&D makes it a little bit harder because of the way the initiative turn works and the initiative structure works. I'm not a fan of multiple actions as a thing, like a choice people can make, but I'm okay with reactions or bonus actions giving you stuff because those are happening in the moment due to a condition, as opposed to, well, I'm going to take 17 actions because I made a roll and I'm going to make you all sit back while I mop up the battlefield. Ah, ha, 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 ha. And in Heroic 5e, one of the things I did is, unless you have a feat or a talent or a class ability or something that says otherwise, any attack you make in a round after your first is always at disadvantage, because it's never as well placed as the first blow you throw. It's always going to be like a little, you know, and that slows down people wanting to do a bunch of stuff in one round. They tend to not want to do that as a result. Also, reduce the amount of hit points people have, so you're not doing the beat a bag of hit points rule, which I heard you talking about with the guy bringing. It's like a video game. I almost got him. Boom. Oh, come on. I got to do this again. Like, I hate that.
Well, 5e had to bloat the hit points. I mean, I think they started with 30, but 5e modern editions bloated the hit points because they changed the metrics so that it was so much easier to hit. Because in old school, you hit 1/4 of the time, 1/3 of the time, especially at lower levels. So hits were fewer, but when you landed one, there was a 50% chance you were going to kill somebody, especially at low levels. And then when I guess somebody decided that whiffing 4 times out of 5 rolls is not fun. They decided to change the math so that you hit 2/3 of the time at low levels, and that only goes up. So the then result is they had to increase the hit points so the fights lasted longer because you were hitting more often. At least that's the way it seemed to me. Whether or not that was the design choice, I have no idea, but that certainly was the result.
But I'd agree with you. Sorry,
No,
Max.
you go ahead. You're the panelist.
I'd agree with you with that, but I'd also say, if I remember rightly, we played and there was a barbarian. Funny enough, I was a wizard. You noticing a theme? And the barbarian had so many hit points. It was well over 300 odd hit points. But it was ridiculous. This was very high level, and essentially, this barbarian, for the GM to put anything in that could even threaten the barbarian, would basically look at me and kill me, because it was me who was like, oh, good to hide behind the barbarian. So yeah, that's where I did end up turning into Uber, because it was like, get them all in position, I'll do things from afar and hope that nothing can come get me, because if anything that could take that barbarian on would basically engage with me and kill me in one hit, whereas the barbarian was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I think that's where you've got that massive hit point bloat, and it just made the game really at high levels. Sorry, but D&D didn't work.
Well, so again, this is something I had to deal with when I was working in designing Heroic 5e. I had to deal with the 5e hit point bloat. So one of the things I did was, you're going to get a lot more hit points if you're playing world-class heroes. You're going to have a lot more hit points, yes. But your powers are also on average doing 3d12 damage plus bonuses. You know what I mean? So that 300-point guy shows up and goes, yeah, I have 300 points. It takes 4 shots in a row that do 50 hit points damage each. Goes, oh, shit, I need to get behind cover. And that's the idea, is you make the trade-off. And that's one of the things I've always felt was a big, big, big problem with 5e, is that the damage doesn't scale well. So once you start getting, and I find most D&D has this problem. When you get to the higher levels, though, BX really did keep the hit points nice and tight, which I really appreciated, and that's why I like OSC a lot. It's up there somewhere behind me. But 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition, they did not think damage should scale if hit points are going to scale. Not to the point where it's meaningless, because if it's just a 1-for-1 scale, then why give the extra hit points? It's silly. You're just protracting your fights at that point in time. But if you're going to have 400 and 500 hit point creatures, and your players on average are dealing 15 to 20 points a round of damage, maybe they should be doing more damage. And maybe they're, not just the spellcasters, but everybody should be doing a bit more damage. And there are ways you can do that. There's lots of house rules I've seen where basically you get, you can use your hit dice as damage bonuses. There's lots of things you can do. That equals the playing field a lot better. But I would say for all of the D&Ds I played in my life, OSE, Basic BX did it best. They kept the monster hit points tight. They kept the player hit points tight. So that way they weren't just, everything after 5th level is essentially a Tarrasque. You know what I mean? Go look up for fun. Go, if you ever have a chance, go just look up how many hit points a dragon has in BX. And then look at how much the same dragon has in 5e, and you'd be like, oh.
Yeah, the typical dragon's in the 30 hit point range on average. Yeah.
Now it's got a hell of an armor class. They're hard to hit. That's the point.
That's the point. Yeah, so they're hard to hit, and unless you're able to wipe them out fast, they will destroy you. There are TPKs waiting to happen.
All right.
But,
go ahead. Finish up.
I was going to say, but if you hit that dragon hard and fast, you can win.
Yep.
So there's another question I'm going to ask, but I'm going to save it to the members only so that we can move on to our next segment here and maybe have time for people to call in during the 4th segment.
That'd be nice.
Last week nobody called in, so I'm going to hold this off till members only. So in our 3rd conversation, our panelists will talk about memorable battles without over-scripting. Now, why is that last little part there? Because you can find online everywhere people talking about memorable battles, about how the game master set this up and set this up and set this phase and this other thing. Now, we're going to talk about things that were just fun. Even, to be fair, even if that was the case, that the game master did set up all these triggers or whatever, but how the players had a ton of fun and what made them memorable battles. So for you guys out there in the comments or in chat, who won this? Who won you over this round? Not who won this round. It's not. I
didn't know we were competing. Yeah.
So who won you over this round and why? If you're walking away with a new idea or trick for your table, we want to hear about it in the comments. We're getting a lot more views on this. We're not getting a lot more comments. So I don't know what that means. Actually, the view time's going up as well, at least for the last couple. So share your thoughts. Really, we want to hear them. Even if you don't agree with us or you do agree, whatever, put your thoughts in there. Don't forget to share this video with your communities and your friends and use that hype button to help get this conversation trending. Without your
Hype my cat! Hype my cat! There you go,
and
Max.
without your monetary support, there will be no Game Master Insight in 2027. Finally, are you okay? Okay. Almost had an emergency here with my wife. Finally, you or someone you know may make an amazing panelist. Sign up on the Game Master Insight Discord, read the rules, and find a panel topic that interests you. Now, let's finish the segment with some of your super chats and member comments. And where did I end up last time? I think
my turn.
All right. So I play a rogue, 15th level, loads of cool things I can do, and I'm always the fastest, and I have an A, B, and C plan depending on the play of battle. That's somebody who's prepped.
We like that.
Yeah.
Yep. Good player. Good player.
I talked about it somewhere recently, and I can't remember where it was, but I think it was actually on the last GMI. Eric, if you're out there, we're going to try this again. When he played Earthdawn, he has all these different abilities that he could do, and he could stack and synergize and do all this nonsense. So he just started labeling them. I didn't like this, but it was, the meme for the table. But he named them after Burger King menu items. So he started with the hamburger, the cheeseburger, the quarter, or the Whopper with cheese, the double Whopper. I knew he was going balls to the wall, basically using all his karma and all his strain. If he's like double Whopper with bacon and cheese, oh crap, here we go. What are you doing? And, he grabs this big pool of dice and starts throwing them out there and things die. But even if the names are dumb, the fact that he put that stuff together like that so we knew what he was doing without him reading out the litany of crap that he was doing constantly. All right. Mark off your strain and your karma. Roll the dice. I like that. I like it when people have plan A, B, C. And then, yep, I got thanks to my wife, I have a bigger bottle of the honey whiskey because I ran out like a couple of episodes ago. And she went out and got some more for me, so she's awesome. And thank you, Poly Robotics. Max, do love perception versus skill rule. I sure do. Just to see your reaction. No, Poly Robotics. You know the answer to that. He's talking Palladium. And no, I don't like perception versus skills. Why put somebody in double jeopardy? I will have that argument until blue in the face. You rolled the skill. You rolled it with a penalty or bonus. You failed. You succeeded on your own merits. Now you want somebody to roll against that again to give you another chance to fail? I don't agree with that. But with that said, moving on. This is for Poly Robotics. Thank you very much for the $50. There we go. That is so good. All right. Follow that one
we
up.
Shouldn't we, Bear?
The second one.
Yeah, we should.
Squirrel Hermit gave you 50.
Shot.
I'm going to space these apart a little bit.
Oh, no.
Oh, what a
no,
baby.
no,
Hey, Squirrel.
no.
I've always done that, so this isn't a
Like
change to anything.
multi-attack.
There will be another 50. Come on, guys. This is a $50 super chat. Chug. So I will chug here. I'll pour it for you, Squirrel Hermit. Squirrel Hermit has been around for a while. I want to get him on the show again too. So there we go. It's poured.
Confirmation of alcoholic wussery. I got it. That's fine.
You know what? Alcoholism runs in my family. Maybe I should take it eat. Actually, no. To be honest, it's because I'm not in the military anymore, and I'm a lightweight now. I will admit that, and I don't want the show to derail too much. So give me a moment. We'll let that first one settle, and then I'll hit this other one for Squirrel Hermit. So there we go. Thank you, Squirrel Hermit. Also, what's that?
Nothing.
Also, a member for 25 months says, "Hey-o." Well, hey-o to you too, sir. All right. And then Zarian13 says, "I can't stand a 3-hour session of which 2 hours is a single combat. But I don't play D&D 5e, so that never happens." What do you guys say?
I've had combats in second edition take forever too. It's not the system; it's the players.
Or the situation, like
That's
my
fair.
season finale of my Night Below story. It was an 8-hour session that was all combat because it was a war situation. It wasn't just a skirmish with 6 orcs. It was a tribe of orcs versus the players, and so it took that long to resolve. And that is what it is. But yeah, I agree that if every session was like that, that would be a slog for me. I played a game where the DM, all he did was the role playing was a 5-minute cutscene to get to the next combat he'd staged. So that kind of thing, yeah, no. But if a game turns out, if a session happens to be consumed by combat once in a while, sure, that's part of the game. I'm okay with that. Okay. Once in a while.
You want to add anything to that, Vicky, or are we good to go?
No, good to go.
Okay. I actually don't mind long combat as long as it's interesting. Whether it's 6 orcs or 6 beholders or 6 pit fiends or whatever, as long as the combat's interesting. It could be a chase. You know, we fought him here. Now we got to finish him off over there. He's trying to get, whatever it happens to be. It's when it turns into, I'm just going to roll my attack. Okay, I rolled a 15. I hit armor class 3. What's it? Then whether it's the game master's fault for not, keeping the energy of the scene up, or the player's fault for not being engaged or whatever, or it's just a bag of hit points. Like, how many more hit points does this thing have? Well, about 55. I mean, you got about 75% gone, but it shows 55 hit points. It's not going to beat us, right? Well, we got to fight it. You never know. Things like that are, for me, where it becomes wrong, bad, etc. But just a long combat, as long as it's interesting, I can do a long combat.
Yep.
And Paul Bacleda says, for 6 jewels, Chili. Okay.
What are these jewels?
I don't know.
They're only on mobile.
What's that?
They're on mobile. I just checked mine. Sent you 1,000 of them. I don't know what they do, but you got 1,000 jewels.
It didn't pop up. Now it popped up. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know what they do, but you know what? Because they come color coded here over in StreamYard. Thank you, Bear, for the 1,000 jewels. I'm going to assume they do something awesome, even if they don't give me money. Maybe they give me, lower blood pressure. I don't know, but I will take it.
Well, cool. You get
lower
XP for
blood
gold.
pressure.
So there you go.
XP for gold. That's perfect. Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Well, that was the super chats and member comments. Actually, I don't think any of them was a member comment. I think I was nice enough to grab the non-members this time. Look at that. Looking out for you guys. But thank you, everybody, for the super chats and the memberships. Now, before we go into, well, I guess you got to see it. I was going to put up the banner, but you got to see it. I will now drink to Squirrel Hermit. Thank you very much, Squirrel Hermit, for the $50. And
Spaced.
I will be now asking the questions. You're thinking D&D game dice go. But we'll see. God, this stuff is so good too. I want to drink it. All right.
You're making me want it now. I want some honey.
It's American honey, and I didn't think I would like it because it's sweet and so forth. But no, this stuff is amazing.
So if you ever come here, if you ever visit Canada, we're going to get you a bottle of Sortilège to take home,
Yes.
which is maple whiskey, and it's so delicious. I hate maple,
bottle.
and I love Sortilège.
Okay, I'll try it out. Booyah! There we go. Now we are going to bring in Bear, anchoring the show to kick off our third and final conversation, which focuses on memorable battles without overscripting. Now, I want to remind folks that we will have a segment 4. Hopefully, there'll be time for it. There should be. Segment 4, where you will get to come in and basically viewer call-ins. We'll talk more about that when that segment comes up, but I'm saying it now because maybe if I give you a head start, you can think of something to say to come on in and talk to our panelists during segment 4 about tonight's topic. So, before we get into that, though, let's bring in Bear. So, Bear, a good fight gives the table room for surprise, while still feeling maybe intentional because either they wanted the fight or they knew it was coming or something. I don't know. But this segment is going to explore how game masters can design battles that incorporate terrain, objectives, enemy behavior, time and resource pressure, and consequences without relying on unbeatable set pieces or predetermined dramatic moments. And the floor is yours.
So first of all, I take umbrage at the term anchor. I'm more like ballast. Thank you.
Okay.
But anyway, that's okay.
The rudder of the show.
Flush me out when we get to port. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about an event that happened back in college. We were playing Marvel Superheroes, Phase Rip, and my players, we were doing a battle, and suddenly they were really well coordinated. And they were using terms, because they were all watching Star Trek at the time, right? So it was all like, attack pattern Delta, go! Defense pattern Omega! And I'm like, what the is going on? And then I stopped and I said, what are you guys doing? What is this? And they showed me a notebook they had made together between games, because college we had time, where they had basically drawn up little battle plans. If this happens, we do this. If this happens, let's do this. You guys flank and attack from the sides. You put up a defensive barrier. And I was like, holy crap, guys. That's amazing. Like, I was blown away by it. So they surprised me as the storyteller, as the narrator, as the GM, the judge in that game. And I was really, 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 really shocked by that. I've never seen players do it since. Sadly, I think players don't put enough work into teamwork. I don't think they put enough work into combat coordination, but it's nice when it happens because it can really show a well-oiled team working together and having, stuff that benefits them. So I started rewarding them. I started going, okay, cool. I'm going to give you a +1 column shift on that roll because that's a great move and stuff like that, Reward the behavior you want. Punish the behavior you don't want.
Okay, but in a more battle context, now I know you're more theater of the mind. At least when I played, you were more theater of the mind.
There were 7 players, man.
No, I get it, but the point being is, how are you able to incorporate terrain and different objectives, maybe a moving combat and so forth, without relying and keeping it entertaining for everybody without relying on unbeatable set pieces or these specific, hold on, we got to stop right now so he can have his one-liner for everybody?
So again, that's not my job. That's the player's job to react and interact with the scenario. They make the fight exciting. I don't make the fight exciting. I make the fight the challenge. I bring the fight. How they react to it for me is that. So them using the terrain, them finding ways to use set piece moments is far more interesting to me, like I just described, of them coming up with battle plans and things like that. If it's all me, then why the hell do I need players? I'm going to go find a video game that lets me do all that and just have fun doing that by myself, right? I want to create a scenario. Hey, you're fighting this guy. Here's your threat. Here's your timer. Here's your treat. Here's your treasure, right? Whatever the case may be. But beyond that, what are you guys doing? What are you doing in this fight? How are you using the terrain? How are you doing this? Because I tell you, I ran Lost Mine of Phandelver, and I destroyed the party in the goblin ambush that starts the adventure. Because I just had the goblins use the terrain to their advantage. And these poor players were just getting arrowed to death because they're first-level characters, and these goblins are attacking them with advantage and all these kinds of things, right? Which also, by the way, the whole idea you can't kill players in 5e. Debunked, myth broken or whatever it is on myth busted, but yeah, I don't feel it's my job to set up scenarios that intricately. It's my job to create the challenge. It's my job to create the moment, but it's up to them to think and use the stuff. Now, is there terrain advantages that can be used? Absolutely. That thing about the monologuing, well, we play superhero games mostly. There's lots of monologuing going on. That's the whole point of a superhero game, is that the guy's going to monologue. But yeah, I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer this question, because I don't do what you're asking about. I'm not the kind of person that does that sort of thing. So for the players, for the new player, the new GM thing, my style is to create the event and then react to the players so that they're the ones creating the dynamism within the battle.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't create or design combats. The combats will come from the scenario, and the exception being is like if there's a random encounter, and I will have a battlefield generator, like how many trees, how sparse the trees, what are the elevations, stuff like that. So, but that gets done on the fly. I don't sit there and think, okay, I'm going to design an encounter that's going to challenge the players, right? It's a matter of, and even if I'm using a published module, that's already laid out. I'm not designing it. I'm just adjudicating how they interact with it. This idea that I have to, or I'm expected to design something to challenge the players, is like, nope, sorry, that's not the game I'm playing.
Go ahead and tell us how we're wrong, Vicky. Come on.
Well, obviously you're wrong.
Well,
because as a
Thank you.
player, I like to be challenged. Now, a couple of things. Something floating up in the air. So I can't remember what module, what adventure it was now, but there was a floating city, right? You know what you can do when you're on a floating city? You can fall off the floating city. That's the use. That's the use of terrain. You could be on a mountainside, and if you've got a mountainside, you've also got to consider the fact that you might get pushed off the mountainside. So I feel that the GM can actually use these things to their advantage, and more importantly, choose the creatures that would actually be in those sort of environments and would use the terrain to their advantage. I'm gonna, what was it? Something Dean did the one time, which was, it was all around what a creature could do. And these creatures, they were frost giants, if I remember correctly. And they would actually position themselves around a battlefield, and they would have these timed sort of frost, I'm going to call it a frost bomb, that would go off. And we then had to maneuver ourselves around these things, because once we'd been hit with them once or twice, we knew what they were. And then not only did we have these going off, we had big boulders in the way that we would then have to either climb over or go around and stuff like that. And it did make it interesting, and it sort of split the party up in interesting ways, and we had to think our way around it. So I do think the terrain can come in really useful. It can also, and stuff like that, it's all about just using your imagination. When we go into places where there's lots of sand, one of the things that we've been looking at is a creature that actually can pull you under the sand and will actually leave behind pools of quicksand and stuff like that. Quicksand itself is a fantastic thing you have to... We've all watched Neverending Story, right? We've all seen it, right? We're all Gen X. We are Gen X.
Every movie from the 1980s was quicksand.
Listen, as a child, I thought killer bees and quicksand were going to be a much larger problem in my life.
Yeah, and me, killer bees, I was terrified. Because our movies were Quicksand, Killer Bees. I think we even had public education programs about how we could all die in quicksand. It was we did. We as little kids we used to go to the cinema and we used to don't get stranded on a sandbank like poor Johnny, because then he drowned in the quicksand. But stuff like this can be used in games, and you can have sort of tales to sort of show that there's something there, and you can actually, that in itself can make for excitement, because you have to maneuver around, you have to take it into consideration. So I do think stuff like that's important, and it also links back to, if you think about a lot of books, if I think of the Belgariad, well, there's quicksand in the Belgariad. Yes, there definitely was. Yes, there was. There was quicksand in the Belgariad. So it is a trope that's used frequently amongst fantasy. So stuff like that. So I like things like that. Trees, you can use them. You can go up. They can be used for visibility. You can use height. You can have creatures that will take you up in the air and drop you. I hate to say it, but that hurts. In fact, that kills. There's lots of ways you can use the terrain to your advantage and use your creatures to the advantage. And now I've just basically broken Bear. I've broken Bear, everybody.
That hurts. In fact, that kills. Like, just the way you said it was such a school teacher statement. I loved it.
Oh, sorry, I forgot you're a school teacher. I have to put
No, it's like
Actually.
it's like a documentary. And yes, you can fall from the tree. It will hurt. In fact, it could kill you.
Actually, if they fall into quicksand, they take less damage, but they sink deeper.
Less damage, but they drown. So yeah, no, everything you're saying is right. But I'm thinking from a design standpoint of where you're expected to craft it.
That's what I'm talking about.
To the nuance every time. And yes, I interact with the scenario absolutely, but I'm not going to sit and handcraft the combats that are to be played out, because I don't know what combats are going to be played out. It's a matter, unless it's a final scenario, like they've battled their way to the end of the dungeon and it's a setup. That's fine, that's different. But in general, you're not plotting out how the players are going to engage and to the micro scenario. That's what I was speaking out against.
I've had way too many times in the past where I would do that. I would design a scenario. I would make it like, ooh, and then this and then that, and then just watch the players steamroll it, or just not engage with anything, or just use spells to avoid stuff. I started to understand why Gary used to ban certain spells in modules, because it's just like, dear God. Like, it just becomes easy mode at that point in time. If you can teleport, if you can do this, if you can find all the traps with a spell, it's just obnoxious. But again, I run superhero games primarily. And that stuff's all going to be part of the NPC. That's all going to be part of the enemy that they're facing at that point in time. I ran a scenario recently where they were trying to get inside this, I'll use the term shield so people understand what I'm talking about, shield weapons depot. And the villains had turned all the the protective drones, into their tools. So, Hatmouse's character almost got killed trying to get into the damn building because like 5 drones hit him and he got 3 criticals on him. You know what I mean? He was like, but fortunately one of the players had an ability where you could save him at the last second as an encounter ability. So he did, he pulled him out of the line of fire at the last second, and that turned into role playing. Anything like this, anything that is a trap or a feature or a scenario in there should facilitate role playing. If it's just designed to destroy hit points or make saves, it's boring. Sorry, it's boring. Make the characters grow from their experiences. Don't make them just sit around going, well, I figured out how to defeat this trap, so let's move on to the next trap, which I will now puzzle out. Like, that's just boring.
Well, a hit point drain as a resource drain is fine, so long as you don't have the ability to instantly get them back because you took a short rest. If it's meaningful, then it's fine. It's like, all right, I lost 3 hit points in this encounter, but it's not like you can just get them back. It's like that's a massive resource drain.
So
yeah,
go ahead.
No, it's all right. Go on.
Well, I was going to change the topic, so if you're still talking about that, I want you to have your say.
No, it's all right. I think I've covered it all.
Okay.
She told us that falling can kill, and that's what we needed to know.
That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know. Drop them off shit.
Right? When does a dramatic set piece or an obvious environment, location, or hazard, such as a castle or a tree ant or a volcano, I don't know, help combat, and when does it become an obvious railroad? Now, the purpose of this question is to actually help dungeon masters out there, game masters out there, who either want to design scenarios or are running scenarios that have been designed for them, to use these things more organically, I think is my point. So starting with you there.
Yeah, so look, it's the quantum ogre scenario, right? If you're fighting in a volcano and there's going to be lava splurts every 5 minutes, that's fine. Just know where they are. Have a random system for where the lava will splurt or what have you, and the players can try and work their way around it, and that's fun. But if you just arbitrarily are going to splash them with lava every round because lava, you're not playing a game. You're just being mean. You're not having fun. The players aren't enjoying this, I promise you. They're just feeling like they're surviving your malicious nature. So make it game. Make it gameable. Make it something that has a mechanic. Make it something that requires rolls. Make it something that they can try and anticipate. They can try and avoid. And sometimes make it something that they can't anticipate or avoid, and they're just going to step on it, and boop, there we are. Her earlier thing about the sand creature that can make quicksand, right? Okay, so the players figure out with the quicksand, they can perception check to notice that looks like quicksand. I'm going to go around it. I beat your trap. No, because that's where the monster's actually waiting for you, because it's set up a ring of quicksand to funnel you, railroad you into its maw. That's not railroading. The word railroading is without a doubt the single most abused term in gaming next to player agency. And both of them tend to get thrown around by people who are butthurt that they lost the scenario or they lost the fight or their character. Go, you railroaded us into that. Oh, okay, whatever. You made choices and I just reacted to them. You know? So when you say I railroaded in the Codex Albanicum, I'm like, not really, but that's okay. If that's how you want to see it,
yeah, but we were
way.
Basically forced to go from point A to point B to point C to follow the scenario that's put in front of us. We couldn't just say, screw that, we're going that way.
You absolutely could, and you did many times.
I ran off short distances. I'm saying, like, we couldn't just drop this whole thing and say,
well, no, because we're playing a quest campaign. If we're playing a quest campaign, the quest exists for a reason. If you show up for a game and the GM has set up a quest and you guys go, nope, we don't want to do that quest, why the fuck are you playing? Why are you in this campaign? If your whole thing is we're just going to do whatever we want, we're going to go build a shack in the woods and cut wood and sell it to the local merchants, go play Settlers of Catan. You know, I mean, at some point in time, if there's a story to a game, and you've specifically said you're not playing a hex crawl, following the story or letting the story move things or taking the clues and investigating them or going to the place you're supposed to go is not railroading.
Right, they're supposed to go.
The story. Well, dude, what do you want to say? You had a goal. Your goal was to find this thing. You had to go to this place to get that thing. That's not railroading. That's a quest.
My goal is to not be eaten by the forest.
Well, yeah. Well, I was a little mean to you in the forest. What can I say? But that's the thing. I hate that. Railroading is when the player's choices don't mean anything. When they do something and the same event happens regardless of what they do. Every single event you guys interacted with, your choices determined the outcome of that event. There was no predetermined outcome. You guys made choices and people reacted to you. Now, if it felt railroady to you, well, I'm going to take that as a compliment because it meant it was organic and felt natural, as opposed to feeling like, oh, I'm sorry, let me figure out this whole thing now. I find that term so overused, railroading, and player agency also overused. But that's me. That's me.
Anyway, back to the question, or was there? Yes, there was a question here.
No, you asked the word railroading in there too, so I was on point for the question.
I didn't say you weren't. I'm just trying to get it back on here. Sean, Vicky, do you remember what the question was, or do you want me to repeat it? Just to
repeat.
Sure. Okay. So when does a dramatic set piece or an obvious environmental location or hazard, such as a castle, tree ant, volcano, those are just three things I thought of off the top of my head, whatever you want to think of there, help combat, and when does it become more of a railroad or something that's in the way?
Well, it only becomes a railroad when you put the players there and they have no choice of going there. But it helps when it varies the scenarios, it varies the encounters. You know, if episode 1 they're in a haunted castle, episode 2 they're making their way through a volcano, or session 1, not episode, session 1 and 2, then it just varies it up. And you can also make them puzzles too. You know, it's not just a combat. A combat as a puzzle can be interesting. You know, we use the example of Barry's example of lava splashing. It's like, well, that could be interesting. Or the sand monster. You know, it's like, okay, so they've got to, not only they got to fight the creature when it emerges, they've got to watch their step. And so there's a puzzle to be solved, how to get to solid ground that doesn't turn to quicksand, and still be able to fight the monster. So there's the puzzle aspect of playing in the combat. So that's how it can be interesting and varied if it's different scenarios: castle, lava, stand, etc., etc.
I'm actually going to steal something that you said and expand on it a little bit. We actually had a game in which we were heading. That's my cat.
Okay, I was like, what's going on with my cats? What the hell?
That's those are my cats. My cats are yelling at me and telling me to go to bed. They're trying to put me to bed right now. But essentially, we were in a situation where we were heading into this particular pyramid, and we went through a portal. Then what we found is, and very much like what you said around a puzzle, this portal basically led to a dungeon, and we were going along, and when we would go through a different area, there would be a portal we couldn't see, and basically as we were mapping it out, it was like, hang on a minute, where does this go? And we were actually physically mapping, so that was square paper, guys, and pencils, and we were mapping it out and realizing that things weren't sort of. And what had happened is these different portals were leading to different places in the dungeon, and then we would then have to recognize where it was, and we had to work out the map of this dungeon. Now that had no combat. It had the odd combat in the actual dungeon, but the puzzle itself was we had to get to a certain place in this dungeon, and that was so satisfying when we actually managed to piece it all together. And we were all like making the maps individually and comparing them around the table in case one of us had taken it down incorrectly, and we managed to figure it all out, and that was really satisfying. And that was no major combats, a few little combats as we were going through the dungeon, and that was using an environment to challenge the players, and it was so much fun. And this is off a player that frequently says, I don't like puzzles. I'm absolutely terrible at them. I am awful at puzzles. I will always be the one that plays the mage, but as soon as there's a major puzzle, I'm like, oh no, do I have to think? But this was really good fun, and it was all environmental. And we've had other puzzles which have also included time sort of jumps and stuff like that. Things like that you can incorporate into your games. Don't be afraid to mess with things and make it a bit different, because that can be as much fun as taking down a bunch of orcs. Oh, there's a hand up.
To build on that, Vicky, it's like so. When you're doing theater, something you have to teach actors early on is that you're going to forget your lines. It's going to happen. But here's great news. Most of the members of the audience haven't memorized the play, so they don't know that you forgot your line. So keep going, and the rest of the actors on stage job is to get you back on script, right? Well, it's the same thing with role-playing. The players, unless you're playing a published adventure everybody's memorized, players don't know what the hell's happening. Yeah. So if you screw up, just keep going and get back on point, and make sure you react to what they're doing, and because they don't know, they're not going to sit there going, wait a minute, page 73 of the module of the blah says blah blah. No. So keep it going, and that's the biggest piece of advice I can give any of you out there who are just trying to become GMs or just learning to become game masters. Keep it rolling. Keep moving forward. Ask for a roll. When in doubt, give them a target number and say, give me a roll, and see what happens. And then it gives you some time to think or whatever the case may be. But always keep moving forward. Nothing breaks a game more. And sometimes you got to do it. Like, I've had times where I've gone, all right, we're going to take a 10-minute break because you guys just did something crazy and I need to figure this out. So we're on break. And I did that to you guys in Codex Albana more than once, where it's like, all right, well, I didn't expect that to happen, so let's take our break now, and I'm going to have to think about this, and that there's nothing wrong with that. But when it's the little stuff, don't sweat it. Just keep going, keep the story moving, keep the game moving forward. The players do not know that they've broken the adventure, and if you're doing your job well and you get better at it, you won't even know they've broken the adventure, because you literally So Neil Gaiman once said the way to write a good story is to treat it like a vacation, which is you know where you want to go, and you know the places you want to see along the way, but how you get there is the road you take on the adventure. That's the way it works. So use that same idea when GMing. Know what set pieces you need to have to make the story and if they miss a set piece, let them miss it. Hopefully they'll have consequences that will come back to bite them on the ass later because they didn't choose to take the clue and go check out the old fort at the edge of town where the hobgoblins were secretly summoning a demon. And now, 3 acts later, that demon showed up, which you could have stopped in Act 1, but you didn't, so now you got to fight the demon too. Just keep going. Don't stop.
You can't break the game if you have an emergent philosophy.
Exactly.
And what does that mean to somebody who's new?
You just let it play
emerge
out.
naturally. Yeah, let it play out. Let it emerge as you're playing. Don't worry about, I really want them to fight Bob. Well, maybe they're not going to fight Bob, and that's okay. Save Bob for another time. You know what I mean? Just let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go.
The story isn't what you plan. The story is what happens at the table.
Yeah, and all choices add to the game, regardless of whether that was a choice you expected them to go down. And I think that's where those choices lead you. Hello, Claire. Sorry.
The choice of having a cat.
Having 5, it's interesting. And basically, if you give people at the table choices and they make choices, they'll feel, even if those choices were fairly obvious to them and which way they were supposed to go, it will feel natural. The minute they haven't got a choice is the time it feels unnatural. And I'm not going to use the word railroading, because my view is, as a player, I actually want to take part in a story, and I want to take part in a game, and I want to go on that quest. I'm not going to turn up and say, well, actually, I want to go work and just stay in the tavern and serve beer or whatever. I want to go on that quest. So therefore, I'm going to make the choices that take me on that quest. But you then remove the chance to me of making that choice, then that's going to feel very pushy. And that's my advice, is make sure there's choices there, sensible choices, and that feels more natural for your players. And I think that's sort of basically is exactly what you guys have been saying. But yeah, choice, it's important.
Player agency, Bear.
Character agency, Sean.
Semantics, Bear.
No.
Yeah.
No, not semantics. Proper use of English.
But yeah, it's all about choice. Let the players play the game, see what happens, and the same applies to combat. To bring it back to the original topic, let the combat play out.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of the players not wanting to take the adventure. I ran a game once with a bunch of nooblers, and there was one veteran player in the game, and they were in this weird, they were in the city of Onwalt or whatever, the vertical city in Greyhawk that's built by dwarves, and they were in the lower levels in this tavern, and they were avoiding the adventure as hard as they could. They just wanted to sit in the bar and drink and all this, but the thing is that one of the characters was an escaped sorceress who had been a slave of the Sueles, what was it, the Scarlet Brotherhood, and I had a timer. They were coming for her, and the whole idea of the adventure was that they would get deeper into the Underdark and get away from that, and then when they came back out more powerful, they would have to deal with that storyline, which would be more fun for them. But they just chose to sit around, stick their thumbs up their ass, and gamble and drink and be all whatever. So at some point in time, a magical darkness fell on the tavern. One person had the ability to see through it, and they got to watch a bunch of red-clad ninjas suddenly come in and start moving towards the sorceress at bullet speed, and it turned into a fight, and then they were trying to dispel magic, and all these other things happened. But it basically taught them the valuable lesson of, there are things out there that want to hurt us, and they are going to do shit no matter what we do. Perhaps we should do shit. You know what I mean? And that would change the whole campaign all of a sudden. It was more fun.
But isn't that reacting to what your players have done or not done in that case? But timelines should move on. We did it and I've told this story before, but we had it where we were high level, we were members of the Harpers, we heard rumours of a kobold that was gathering all the tribes together. We ignored it. That kobold turned into an avatar, and ate us. And we died horribly. And I cried because I lost my favourite character. And you know whose fault it was? It wasn't the GM's fault. It was our fault. We ignored it. We absolutely ignored it. We heard rumours. We ignored. We heard more rumours. We ignored it even harder. Yeah, until we couldn't ignore it anymore. And by that point, that particular kobold had got too powerful for us to really take on. And we even had a choice where we could go to the plane of time and we could go back and sort it out. But we thought, no, we're fine. We'll obviously manage to defeat it. We're high level. We got eaten. It was bad. We were tasty.
I always love your stories, Vicky, because you play a very different D&D than I play. Never in any point in any campaign have I ever run have the players said, well, we could go to the plane of time. Like, this never happened in any of my games, you know? I love it.
Oh, this is great because we were based on Torrell, but I was actually from Sigil. We had access to the planes. We did all sorts of stuff. It was a fantastic campaign and we killed it. Yes, we killed it because we were stupid. Totally. Players being stupid. We thought we were so powerful, nothing could defeat us. And we were taught that was not the case.
Those humbling moments are great, and they come up. I mean, even my AD&D game a couple weeks back, these are mid-level characters, 6th, 7th level. They got 2 6th-level rangers. They got a 7th level or 6th level paladin, 8th level thief. Like they're good. It was a bunch of trolls. And it's like 2 rangers in the group, a paladin, heavy armor. They should be able to make short work of trolls. They got their asses handed to them and had to flee. And it was like, well, that was humbling. And when they went back, they played smart. They was like, okay, let's play like we're paper men. And so they used their tactics and they overcame the trolls. But it was like, yeah, even the tough guys, they can get up, not taken down a notch, which is great. It's great to watch.
But that's also where you as a GM will learn your craft best. Is in those moments where the players make you just sit there. You have this moment. You're the GM. You're running the game, and they say we're going to do this, and your brain just goes, "What? How in the name of God would that be ever considered? Really? All right." And then you have to react to it as the GM. You have to let the story emerge from their choices, and sometimes their choices are suicidal. And you just have to, self-exiting. Pardons YouTube.
Yeah.
You have to let them. First of all, it's okay to have an NPC go, I don't know if this is a good idea. What I love to do is have an NPC who goes, yeah, let's go. Like, I love having an NPC who's all in for their stupid ideas. And then they think, because players, no matter how many times you screw them over that way, will always think that the NPC is the voice of God. Yeah, they're the voice of God. They're telling you the truth. I have my NPCs lie. I have my NPCs be stupid. I have my NPCs come up with dumb ideas just to teach them you are in charge. You are making your choices. You are the people that are making the story. I'm just here to react to you. Yes, I have some set pieces we're going to go through. Yes, I have some plot you're going to have to deal with. But your choices are going to determine how we get to those things, if we get to those things, or if they happen. So since I know he loves this to be about helping new people, let your players be stupid and react to it appropriately. Let the story come from that. And sometimes they're going to have the luckiest dice rolls in the world, and the stupid plan is going to work. We were playing Star Wars D20 one time, and I was a player, and we were trying to get off this Imperial base, and it was just like the odds were against us, and we were overthinking what to do, and I can do that. And I went, you know what? I'm going with this. I'm just going to pull up my blaster and run shooting into the hangar at the stormtroopers. And one of the other players went, that's a stupid plan. And then the third player went, I'm all for the stupid plan. Let's go. And we did the stupid plan. And our dice were hot. And we blasted our way through the stormtroopers, got onto the shuttle, and took off. And the GM was like, you let it happen.
And that's some of the best stories out there, no matter how that played out. Not saying that every character at your table should do stupid shit constantly, but sometimes, you know, how are epic stories created? From epic or very lucky?
Well, it's that line, right? No good story starts with a glass of milk, except, Clockwork Orange.
I was about to say, your Star Wars scenario, it's like, bring them on. I prefer a straight-on fight to all this sneaking around.
Exactly, baby.
Yeah,
I won't even tell you what my character was. My character was obnoxious. He was a Gungan bounty hunter.
Yeah, we had a scenario once where we'd figured out that this was a trap. We knew it was a trap. You know how we decided that we would handle this trap, and it was this inn where we knew that they were waiting for us. We knew they were hard. You know what we decided? We're gonna go and we're going to spring the trap. Did we actually do anything to prepare for it properly? No.
Why?
And you know what? It was epic because we were fighting. It was like we'd realised it was a trap. We had all the opportunity to prep, but we were just in the mindset of we can do it, and we went and did it, and it was epic. And I would not recommend it at any time because I almost lost that character as well. Sometimes it works out, but other times it doesn't. And we ended up having to retreat and come back. It was that bad, but it was good fun and we loved it.
Yeah, before we continue on here, I have to ask this question. Is there anybody planning to come in to do a viewer call-in? Because we only have 20 minutes of the show left. And if so, then I have to move it to segment 4 so we have time for 1 or 2 folks to come in.
Someone get in here.
If
come
not,
on,
then
talk to us.
Then we'll finish this up, after a couple of comments, and then move on to members only. So,
Vicky won't bite, I promise.
I promise.
But so while we're waiting to see if else is going to show up, here's something also. Do not be afraid to use NPCs dramatically or heroically in a fight. We were running my first original superhero campaign, the Guardians campaign, lasted 10 years. In their big final battle, finally against the enemy that was their big nemesis for the campaign and all that stuff, when they went into the final fight, they had sent out a call to every single hero they'd ever worked with saying, we're doing this is where we're doing it, we got to go. And they went, and some heroes showed up to help them, but otherwise it was just them. And they were getting their asses beat by the villain. The villain was just hot and was taking them down, monologuing, and at the final bit, most of them are laid out. They got like 1 or 2 health left, and the one hero who's like their heart and soul player is facing off the villain. And he's like, and now finally you see the true power I display. As he's about to deliver this devastating blow. And the player's like, I grip my teeth and get ready to take the hit. And then there's the teleport in, and the equivalent of the Thor NPC that they had worked with for years shows up, takes the blast to his chest, and says, I say thee nay, villain, not while one guardian stands. But they took him out of the fight. But it rallied all the players. They all suddenly felt like they could win the fight again, and they started thinking, and they started moving, they started fun. Now, some players would say, oh, that's an NPC stealing their thunder. Well, I got bad news for you. If that NPC hadn't showed up, that was a dead PC. Did I save him? Yes. Why? Because it's a fucking superhero game, and that's how superheroes work. And if you're not understanding things of the tropes of what you're playing and running as a GM, you will miss golden opportunities to make players feel like they're in the most epic story they've ever been in. Do not be afraid of it. Don't have the NPC then take over the show, but you can use the NPC to help the moment. Don't be afraid of NPCs. You're going to hear a lot of guys say, oh, NPCs should just be there to give quests. Yeah, okay, go play World of Warcraft. That's what the NPCs are there for. Have fun. In a role-playing game, it's emergent storytelling, and the story needs to be told.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. When we were playing in Ben Tharenbar, we had this NPC that had been... We'd found him, and he'd sort of come along with us on these journeys. He was actually back at my business, and he was like holding up and doing research and stuff like that. And then he came onto the battlefield with us for an epic battle, and he died. And we were upset around the table. We come to care for this NPC, and boy, did we revenge him. We were all out for the person who'd killed this NPC because of how connected we'd become to him. So don't be afraid to use those NPCs. Don't be afraid to let the players get friendships with them, to build a background with them, and they become part of the story, and you can do so much with them. It's just fantastic. It's so much fun. Gotta have some
All right.
fun.
Well, I know there's at least one person who wants to come in, so we're going to end it there. The rest is going to be handled in the members only, where I'm going to I wrote a bunch of notes for today, like normal. I'm gonna speak my mind, and then I've got definitely a question at the end for each one of them. That may or may not be interesting for folks, but I think it will be. So if you're a member, you can stay around for that. But let's jump into segment 4. I'm gonna put the link into chat right now. This is the link that I'll tell the rules in just a moment. This is for folks who want to come in and ask the panelists a question. Which panelists, as we're ending segment 3 here, which panelists made the case you didn't see coming? Was there a take that actually shifted how you think about running your table now? Drop it in the comments. Right now is the time to become a legitimate channel member by hitting that join button. We've had a bunch of people upgrade their memberships. Thank you very much to those of you. One person even did it at the crazy, I don't know why, $99.99 level. I owe him hookers and blackjack or something. I don't know, but anyway.
I'm listening.
$99.99 Bear.
I'm listening. There's a case to be made for me not feeding the cats. Yes.
Hookers and blow, but it's Alabama hookers.
That is true. Yeah, I live in Alabama now. So
I'm out. I like teeth.
Anyway, you can become a member by hitting that join button at whatever level you think that we deserve. You can also support Legion of Myth after with a super thanks. Remember, without your support, there will be no Game Master Insight in 2027. Do you think you have more panel presence, better opinions, more experience, or something else to improve upon a panel like this? I'm sure you do. Sign up on the GMI Discord, read the rules, and find a panel topic that interests you. Now, let's read a couple of super chats before we talk to at least one guest that comes in here.
I'm going to answer Mr. Max's.
What's that? Well,
let
me get to it.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
So, Daryl says, it's not an online game. There was nothing but perception checks and dexterity checks. Puzzles and traps, no combat, little roleplay. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
I despise that whole, I walk in the room, spot investigation. No, you have to tell me what you're doing. You have to put some effort into it and so forth. And puzzles, what I like to do with puzzles, I hate puzzles. Vicky was talking about that earlier. I hate puzzles because I overthink them, and the easy solutions got me killed when I first started playing over and over again. So I will never accept the easy solution, even though it is what it is 9 times out of 10. But what I'll do if I have a puzzle in my game is I'll give the players time to think it through and solve it themselves. Then I will bring it over to the characters and have them make like some sort of intelligence check or whatever. But they just don't get as much XP if it happens that way. But I want to give them the opportunity to be like, hey, we beat this thing, But I also don't want that to be the thing that stops them. Like, we can't figure out what kind of nonsense you're trying to do here. So, then I go the character route. But I very rarely do puzzles.
Not a fan.
Yeah. Sounds like Max Leal would rather hang out in Camelot than quest for the Holy Grail. No, Max Leal likes choices. Max Leal likes to say, you know what, I don't feel like killing the vampire. Please, not in the microphone. I don't feel like killing the vampire. I want to go and go to the goblin cave. You're too big for goblins. Don't care. That's what I feel like doing now. And vampires scare me. I'd rather go barter with the mayor or the burgomaster or whatever and try to figure out, how I can take over this joint. The point being is I don't like just, this is where you have to go. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. It's just preference. I don't like that.
Also, Camelot is a silly place.
Let's not go there.
All right. For €5, thank you very much. Started one campaign with characters falsely jailed. Planned on an NPC. Planned on an NPC thief in with them break. Wait, what? Planned on an NPC
thief with them to break him out.
With them to break. Okay. Gave them a chance to escape and clear name. Continued on. Clear, confused, partake. Botched on the jailbreak. Derailed my sewer adventure. But now the party has a sworn nemesis.
Fair.
Yeah, fair.
That thief's going to level and come back with some backstabbing.
I once slept out of a barn. Take out some goblins besieging us on a direwolves. Wrecked my dex roll, so DM ruled I face planted in the mud in the middle of the wolves and was torn apart. Great death!
Oh.
Love it.
You know what I love is that he was eaten by the wolves and wasn't just randomly killed by like the goblins or whatever.
Dinner for wolves.
and somebody will be talking to in just a moment. Emergent storytelling is incompatible with the story needs to be told. The story is whatever happened at your table. You have a story to be told, that's not emergent. I actually agree with that.
I want to address this because this was him reacting to my ears. And I'm going to do it in French. No, I'm going to do it in English. So the point of saying the story to be told, I'm referring to the story we're telling together in that moment. Not that there's a pre-described story to be told, Max. It's the semantics, but you're missing the point. The point is, it's not there's a story laid out they have to follow. It's the story has to be told that we are creating together. This is the story. There's no preconceived ending. It's just the story that is emerging from us. You're missing the point on that one, sir. Sorry.
All right.
Because I agree with you.
Well, there we go
What's
then.
what's that weird mic? Anybody else hearing that weird mic click? Every now and then I'm hearing boop, boop. It's right in my, maybe it's my headset. I don't know. All right, keep going.
All right, now it is time for you to join us in segment 4. We're only going to have time for one person today, and he's already in the chat. So, sorry for everybody else. But it didn't seem like a lot of people wanted to jump in anyway, so we're just going to go with this. So, the rules. I think he knows them, but I just have to say it every time, just in case. Before we bring anyone in to talk to the panel, I need to remind you of a few things. If you don't want to get booted and possibly banned, do not break YouTube's terms of service. Also, stay on topic unless someone specifically super chats more time for you. You have 5 minutes maximum for your back and forth, so make your point quickly. No matter what, the show has a hard stop at 2 hours and 30 minutes. That's less than 10 minutes from now. This means we may not get to everyone, but it seems like we're only going to have one now anyway. So let's put that up there, and let's click on... Oh, look at that. Add to stage. I said add to stage. Okay. Apparently... No. There we go.
Ah!
How you doing, all?
The Canadians are taking over.
Hello.
Yeah.
3-2.
Need more Canadian representation. There was no French Canadian. Unacceptable. The topic tonight was like a thing that GMs can do to improve RPG combat pacing. I thought you had a good conversation, a lot of good point being made. But one thing that I find could have been talked more about is what the GM shouldn't do. Right? I think that the GM because a lot of the thing that I see a lot of games, and there's a lot of things that the GM is actually the one damaging the pacing. And one thing that really gets me is when the GM always re-narrate the player's turn. The player describe their action. Sometimes they do a fine job at it, and then the GM is gonna step in and re-narrate it and try to add more flavor and stuff like that. Say, well, let the player have his turn. Let the player narrate his turn and make something cool, right? Was it not cool enough for you? So you have to take it over, right? And re-narrate. Like, that drives me nuts. But I wanted to know if there's some stuff some bad habit you see GM doing that you say, like, well, that's slowing down the game, like, cut that off.
Well, first of all, when you're playing, they're only repeating the action because they have to translate it into English for the other players. But I agree. No, there's a lot of bad things GMs do to slow down games. And the secret is to know when you're doing it, and more importantly, learn not to do it, right? Like, I mean, Jesus Christ, don't count every goddamn pip on the dice if you don't have to. The difference of 1 or 2 hit points when they're not near death are not going to make a difference. Just move forward. Don't roll for everything. Not everything needs to be rolled for sometimes. Sometimes just let the player have the win. I mean, my God. You guys don't hear that. That's so weird. I keep hearing it.
I heard it.
Okay, good. I'm not crazy. Yay. So for me, that's what I would say. I would say, streamline, speed up, find ways to move the events forward.
Anybody else?
Yeah, anybody else?
I disagree with the don't roll for everything. It's in a combat. You're rolling for all the attacks. You're rolling for everything. You're damn right. Sorry, Vicky, you were about to say something.
I can't think of many things that I've seen GMs do that slows things down. I do think that sometimes GMs will actually make the initial sort of story so overwhelming that the players don't think that they can achieve it. That can actually drive players in the opposite direction to the sort of quests and stuff. And I've seen that in the attempt to make it heroic, and an attempt to make it very much like a Marvel film, and this isn't saying you might do that in a hero game, but in a normal fantasy game, make it that sort of world ending. Their first level, they're gonna go and get help because it's world ending stuff, and I think sometimes GMs can do that, and I've noticed that with very sort of new GMs, they tend to really overstate the threat. Instead of building things up, they tend to go straight in for the big bad.
Yep.
Because they're excited, because they've created this big bad and they want to roll him out. And it's like, no, lead up to it. And I think that will help the GM settle into the game that they're running. And it will also help the players and the GM learn how to create the story together. Because especially if you've got a new GM, new players, or a mixture, you need time. I've been a new GM. I've only GM'd a little bit. And it's scary when you've been mainly the player. And you've got to learn how to work up with the table, and you have to learn that. And it's so tempting to go for the big bad straight away.
Yeah.
So
it's
that would be
finding the
my
right
take.
balance for finding the right balance is something that I find exciting and challenging and a bit scary, but not like too scary. That's giving you like the analysis paralysis, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
No, I agree with everything Vicky just said, 100%. No, scale is important. Context is important. Don't, your first level players aren't going to beat a lich. It's not going to happen. So if
No.
the big bad of your campaign is a lich, you are only going to show him to the players so they understand the threat. You're not going to use him to then kill all the players because, well, I want to use my lich. It's the Jeepers Creepers syndrome, right?
Yeah.
When the movie Jeepers Creepers was first done, the monster wasn't supposed to be seen until the third act. You're supposed to spend the first 2 acts thinking it was a human serial killer. The director, less on him the better, showed up, loved the costume so much, he showed it in the first act. So it just became a monster film. He lost all of the build, all of the suspense, all of the tension that was going to build up to a reveal. That's what you're talking about. GMs who do that are basically spoiling the payoff. The payoff is valuable. The players will care when the payoff happens.
But conversely, you will get players who think that because the DM laid it out and this is the story, therefore this is what we must do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, well, it must be beatable. The DM planned for it, so let's
And then they'll bitch about player agency after in railroading.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I guess that's my time.
All right, Mr. Max, thank you very much. I
Thank
do have
you.
to end
Another
the
rule.
show, we may or may not see you in the members only. We'll see.
We'll see.
All
Bye.
right,
Hey,
well,
boom.
you got the link, so if I make a call for it, you can come back. But with that, we are going to end the show. Let me bump him out here. Bye-bye. Here we go.
Merci la visite.
All right, so that is going to be it for the public portion of tonight's Game Master Insight. YouTube members, there is more to come, so don't go anywhere. A sincere thank you to everyone who supported the show with super chats and my whiskey habit, rumble rants, and memberships, and to all of you who took the time to join us tonight. Finally, thank you very much to tonight's panelists for their time. This was an awesome discussion. It was actually one of the not the first ones, but it was one of the best ones recently where there were really diametrically opposing views and good discussion on each side for that. So I like that. So thank them for being here. Be sure to check out their links in the description. And with that, I look forward to doing this next time.